Chapter 904, Night Raid. Chapter 904, Night Raid. Proofreader, Papatonks. Grandmaster Gu, you must find it strange why we're back out of the blue. Or you already know that but just want our confirmation, haha. Back in Flying Cloud Manor, to the same smell, to the same hall, Shangguan Feiyun, Bailey Jingwei and Dan Qingshen had him surrounded with creepy smiles. As a hidden big player himself, Zhuofan knew how to get into his role, playing dumb with a straight face and bright smile. Prime Minister, what are you saying? I don't get your words, haha. Don't get it, don't you? Haha, Grandmaster Gu, you don't have to pretend any longer. We know everything there is to know about you. Bailey Jingwei's eyes shone. Grandmaster Gu, since you just can't seem to understand, I'm sure the names Shangguan Yulin, Shangguan Feixiong and Shangguan Qingyan should ring some bells. Shuddering, Zhuofan tensed, his face paling. Bailey Jingwei stared right at him, his grin wide. Grandmaster Gu, you're an alchemical gem and gaining success through the Sword Star Empire's court is easier than breathing. So why must you stand up for those kinds of people? Zhuofan lowered his head, like a condemned man waiting for his verdict. Pa. Bailey Jingwei patted his shoulder from behind, noticing the problem eating away at him, the act of being Shangguan clan's spy, in playing a role of destroying the foundation of my empire, would never make me waste so many words with any such criminal. Bailey Jingwei's grip tightened and Zhuofan winced with clenched teeth while adding a perfectly timed frantic image of himself. Bailey Jingwei smirked, immensely pleased at his reaction. Grandmaster Gu isn't just any criminal but a one-of-a-kind genius. It weighs heavy on my heart having you pay with your life along with those thieves. Bailey Jingwei looked heartbroken, his tone softening. The loss I feel isn't just mine, but the Empire's as well for losing such an outstanding alchemist. The pain I feel is only amplified if Grandmaster Gu won't be able to reveal his talent to the world. Bailey Jingwei spoke lower and more saddened. The heartbroken state he was in would bring anyone to tears. If anyone else heard him right now, they'd be so moved they'd become sworn brothers. A shame this failed on Zhuofan, who didn't fall short in the subterfuge department. As a fellow specialist himself, Zhuofan had to give him props for playing it right. Using psychology to threaten and coax, making it sound logical and sensible. There's no way Shangguan Yulin had any chance against such an assault, turning his back to his own family on the spot. Bailey Jingwei isn't called the wisest in the Empire for nothing. Though Zhuofan was no pushover either. Furthermore, he was never truly invested in his alchemist role, making this touching display feel flat. Though it was one thing to not feel it and another thing altogether to not show it. It was easy to tell in which situation he was in and he had to play his part. How nice of Bailey Jingwei to set the stage for him. Zhuofan teared up on cue, his face overwhelmed. Prime Minister, a wise man's words are invaluable. Prime Minister is my best friend. If only I had met Sir sooner. I wouldn't have. Zhuofan was taken by abject regret of the mistake he made joining the thieves and botching his future. Bailey Jingwei and Shangguan Feiyun shared a smile, with the first saying, I've considered Grandmaster Gu a friend the moment I saw you. Grandmaster Gu has just strayed, holding no deep repercussions and offering the chance to come back on the straight and narrow. I promise you this, Grandmaster Mu, give your all to the Empire and I'll even be more than happy to give my position to you. Prime Minister, why you're just too good to me. Zhuofan was so touched he was choking, tears filling his eyes. Bailey Jingwei waved his hand. Then, can Grandmaster Gu tell me of their movements? Of course. Prime Minister has given me a new lease on life and the least I could do is return the favor. Unlike them. Zhuofan shook his head, his eyes shining with loss and hatred. Bailey Jingwei was puzzled, but soon came to understand once he heard his story. Humph, fools who only throw away talent, that's what they are. And they talk about being pragmatic with Grandmaster's fate? Furthermore, they're even using your own son as a shield. How vile, how repulsive. Right? I didn't know they were like that, treating me like family. Until Shangguan Qingyan told me everything 2 days ago. She's such a nice girl. Zhuofan sighed. Bailey Jingwei sparkled. Grandmaster Gu, we'll get every last one of them for sure and give you justice. You just go take some rest in your room and await the good news tomorrow. But my son. He won't be harmed. Zhuofan sighed, letting 2 guards escort him away. Shangguan Feiyun spoke out of earshot. Prime Minister, did Grandmaster Gu really switch sides? He wasn't close to them to begin with. Thanks to my smooth and enlightened words, he has surrendered to us. Bailey Jingwei spoke. Most of what he told us fits with the report Shangguan Yulin gave us through the Jade Slip. The only discrepancy is the missing chat between him and Shangguan Qinyan, but that's normal. He has no business butting into a private chat. Shangguan Feixiong's pragmatic plan had to have been discussed with his high elders late in the night, making Shangguan Yulin unaware of it. Now that I believe. Shangguan Feiyun nodded. Shangguan Feixiong loves to play the nice guy, but that ends when his clan's future's at stake. All niceties are thrown away. Humph, nothing but a rotten hypocrite. Don't say that. Bailey Jingwei smiled. It comes with the territory. Even Shangguan clan's clan head would sometimes place his clan first. I can sure understand it. Haha, Sword King Feiyun, I find you rather biased about your brother. Shangguan Feiyun huffed in anger. Bailey Jingwei smiled, his mouth quivering with a confident grin in Zhuofan's direction. We finally got the alchemist grandmaster to switch sides. I've yet to lose my touch, haha. Prime Minister Bailey. Danqing Shen, who had been keeping silent while the two mighty actors played their role, finally spoke up. Since we trust Grandmaster Gu now, then the eyes that are on him. Bailey Jingwei cut him off with a flick of his hand. One is reality and another is necessity. He has just switched to us, but even if we do believe him, the monitoring can't stop. It's only for a day anyway. I'd rather not have my plan fall to ruin from a simple slip-up. Shangguan Feiyun and Danqing Shen shared a nod. Bailey Jingwei is meticulous and cautious. Despite the house arrest he was under, and the couple of soul harmony experts watching him outside his door, Zhuofan was sporting a weird smile. The plan's moving along nicely. The next night, Shangguan Feixiong assembled his experts in the garden and looked at the bright moon, ordering, "Begin." "Yes, sir." The men saluted and faded into the night sky, closing in on their prey, the flying cloud manor. Shangguan Yulin looked at Shangguan Qinyan, smiling. "Yenner, they're off. When the manor turns to chaos, the security for the city entrances will slack. We'll use this chance to get out, go to the meeting place with Uncle. I'll take young Sanzi." Shangguan Qinyan nodded and left to find Gu Santong. Shangguan Yulin's face fell in annoyance. "Is he your kid? Why do you even care so much?" Shangguan Qinyan suddenly cried out and rushed over. "Oh no, something bad happened." "Yenner, what is it?" Shangguan Yulin asked. Shangguan Qinyan panted in panic. "Why, young Sanzi is gone. Dish, the brat is nothing but trouble. Where could he have run off to? Forget about him. Time waits for no one." Shangguan Yulin snaked. Shangguan Qinyan glared. "How can you talk like that? He's but a child who's now lonely and sad without his father. We can't just leave him. Did you forget how much his father helped us? To hell with his help. Come dawn, it won't matter." Rolling his eyes, Shangguan Yulin smirked inside. Once the curtain fell on tonight, Bailey Jingwei promised him the Shangguan clan's top experts would be done and Gu Yifan would become a traitor hunted by the eastern lands, leaving him with no choice but to take asylum with the Prime Minister. And the juniors escaping from here would be led by him, to restore the Shangguan clan. Then, as a Central Area spy, he'd work with the Sword Star Empire to unify eastern lands. Shangguan Feiyun would become the leader and he would become Shangguan Feiyun's right hand, ruling over everyone else. Oh no. Shangguan Yulin's fantasy was cut short by a cry. Young Sanzi must think his dad is at the manor, so he must be going there. I never told him his dad left and his dad didn't say goodbye, fearing he couldn't let go. I have to go to the manor and find him. Yenner, Uncle is attacking the manor, you can't go there. It's too dangerous. Shangguan Yulin grabbed her shoulder. Shrugging his hand away, Shangguan Qinyan ran off. That's why I must go. Young Sanzi is just a child. Shangguan Qinyan was gone. Shangguan Yulin gnashed his teeth and followed. Their exchange was, however, under the watch of a red and cute figure behind a tree, looking on with guilt. Dad and I want to step on your bodies for our job, but you still went back to save me. Dad, I'm sure you won't step in even if Auntie is about to die. Then, Gu Santong faded into the night. Chapter 905, Sudden Breach. Chapter 905, Sudden Breach. Proofreader, Papatonks. Shadows made use of the night's dark cover to cross the moonlit clearings with ease and arrive before a grand manor. The plaque hanging above identified it as the Flying Cloud Manor. Patrols of Soul Harmony guards moved about, ensuring its safety. Shangguan Feixiong witnessed their shift changing, right in front of the manor gate with hardly any attention to their surroundings. Hundreds of Shangguan clan experts, wearing black, struck, having readied themselves for this moment. The earth shook under the thunderous sound as the veritable army attacked as one with enough force to split mountains. The guards never knew what hit them, their voices robbed as the wave of power smashed into them. The guards' eyes grew bloodshot and then each of them started popping like overripe tomatoes, spreading blood and gore everywhere. 2 teams, 50 people, were dead in a few seconds. Shangguan clan's experts moved with purpose and speed, taking the smooth start as a good sign for what was to come. The men ignored the carnage and went deeper. Rumble. The early power wave had shook the whole manor awake. In a quaint little room, sitting at his table, gently picking the rattling teacup, sipping from it and hiding a peculiar smile. The pale yellow light of a lone candle reflected off his bright visage, and the unmoving soul harmony experts behind him in the hundreds. Prime Minister, they're here. A man holding the candle bowed with utter respect, unleashing his late Genesis stage power. Bailey Jingwei's face bloomed into a smile. Just wait for them to get closer, ha. The man nodded and withdrew. Bailey Jingwei snickered and drank his tea. His demeanor, the coldness of those eyes and the hard face made everyone's hearts shudder every time he placed the teacup down. The manor's under attack. Activate the array, protect the Sword King. As the earth shook, the manor shuddered with it while the guard captain issued frantic orders. The men nodded and executed their signs. It was not due to the ambush but having gone through the same terror once before. The images were still burned into their eyes of the time the last attackers just came and went to the manor. What followed was Sword King Feiyun's wrath unleashed upon hundreds of Soul Harmony guards. It was so bad the real estate market experienced a collapse at the sudden influx of empty houses, the fall of many outstanding guard families scattering from ending up broke, a given. People always said serving men in power came with its own danger, but working under a Sword King wasn't any easier either. Now it was their turn to be put to the test with another raid. Talk about rotten luck. They could have come earlier or later, but no, they just had to pick tonight when I'm on duty to make sure I suffer for it. Is that it? What did I ever do to you? I don't even know you, so why me? All the guards were outraged at the attack but equally helpless. They knew their luck had run out and blaming others wouldn't help anyone. They could only do their duty to the best of their ability, to stop these attackers where they stood. As the guards finished with their gestures, a faint barrier came to life, covering the core of the manor and dividing it from the incoming thieves. The guards smiled for once. We've done our job and they can't get in. The joy was short-lived as 3 elderlies appeared before them out of the blue. One's eyes shone, it's still a breeze getting in before the defensive array is truly activated. The 3 shared a look and smiled, making their own signs and attacking. Their hands extended in a most peculiar stance, intertwined as their index fingers came out from each palm and unleashing devastating power. 3 break the skies as one, soaring cloud one sword. A savage blade sword wave rushed out, of such power that it felt like a god unleashed it. And all of it was sent at the helpless guards and the incomplete array. Boom. The array formed by 300 guards held all but for an instant, exploding into nothing. The force ravaged the area, crushing their hearts and blowing them away. The only lucky survivors were around 100 of the original 400 guards. These meager dozens of Genesis stage experts still suffered greatly at the attack. They looked shocked at the devastation. There was nothing around the manor for dozens of miles. All those gardens and trees, lakes and ponds, all gone. As to where the sword wave struck, that went on for 50 kilometers. There was a clear, endless line of utter nothingness left in its wake. Success. The guards gasped in fear at these elders' power. Who the hell are they? They're in the Genesis stage as well, but how can their combined attack be so strong? Not even Sword King can take that. Figures populated the area as hundreds of Genesis stage experts went past the 3 elders and straight for them. The elders let them take the remaining guards. Genesis stage experts as well, the guards had been too damaged by that ferocious attack to put up any resistance to the rest of the Shangguan clan's strength. Their wails and cries echoed soon after, until silence was once again restored. Shangguan Feixiong grinned. While he lost 10 of his men, it was worth it since the enemy lost scores. The emphasis on this ambush was speed, evident by how fast they went through the entrance and the second line of defense. Even he found it astonishing how smooth it all went and smiled. At this rate we'll be in and out of Jade Falls with the soaring sword before Shangguan Feiyun even gets wind of us, ha. Shangguan Feixiong spurred on, let's push on. Yes, sir. The men nodded in excitement. Who could blame them when everything was a walk in the park so far? The odds looked mighty high for the whole team to finish the mission and come home in one piece. So the men pushed harder and faster, feeling like nothing could stand in their way. We're invincible. Wholly unaware this was merely an elaborate bait they fell for, its line reeling them into an inescapable net. Shengguan Qingyan reached the manor to see the hellscape. The deafening silence was proof her father had been here. In face of such destruction, how could a child survive it? The men might not lower themselves to harm him, but the shockwaves would still spell his end. Shengguan Qingyan frowned in deep worry. But her gaze was firm and her step quick as she went in. Yen or don't. Shengguan Yulin blocked her path, grabbing her shoulders and speaking with distress. Uncle is in there, fighting. Soul harmony experts are nothing, and even Genesis stage experts are sure to die. What can you do with an 8th layer ethereal stage cultivation? You're only going to die. Don't throw your life away. Shengguan Qingyan bit her lip. No, since I am in such danger, that means young Sanzi must be having it worse. Who cares? He asked for it. He's a brat causing trouble. Shengguan Yulin spoke with hatred, but Shengguan Qingyan was unflinching. Yenner, if not for yourself, then do it for Uncle. Uncle won't tarry in the Flying Cloud Manor any more than he needs to. Genesis stage experts can flee, and so can soul harmony experts. But not you, and you'll be holding them back. You'll only make it harder for Uncle and might even harm him. Can you live with that? Shengguan Qingyan hesitated, but her gaze was firm once more. I know, and that's why I won't let father find me. I'm only looking for young Sanzi, and then I'll leave. If I die from this, then so be it. It's just one of the things an aunt must do. Shengguan Yulin pushed Shengguan Yulin away and shot into the manor. Shengguan Yulin sighed and followed. Then a flash of red came as well, who was not far behind them. All that remained here was the ground covered in blood and limbs, a sign that this world was lawless. Chapter 906, Plot Within Plots. Chapter 906, Plot Within Plot. Proofreader, Papatonks. That sure is fast, passing the second defense line. In a quiet little room, an old man caressed his beard while listening in on the outside ruckus. A Genesis stage cultivator saluted. Dragon Cleaving Sword King, the thieves are quickly on their way here. They'll reach our line in 15 minutes. Shengguan clan. Dan Qingshen's eyes shone coldly and he said, I have nothing against them, yet here I am clashing with them. How frustrating. The guard merely listened. Dan Qingshen dismissed him by muttering, Leave since there's still time, let me enjoy the remaining minutes in silence. Yes, Sword King, sir. The guard left, fading into the darkness. Around this room, just like Bailey Jingwei's, hundreds of experts lay in wait, ready to strike. On the other side of the manor, Shengguan Feiyun set his forces for an ambush. Hearing the noise in the distance, he closed his eyes to focus on it, wearing a faint smile. Haha, by the sound of things, it's those three's tri-talent surging cloud art. There's no way the manor's barrier can hold them. Those three coots want to get my head quite fast. Think again. Shengguan Feiyun mocked, flicking his sleeve and sitting in his chair. I shall wait right here. We're all Shengguan clansmen, so let's see whose soaring sword art is better. Tonight we'll see who is the strongest, the three soaring cloud swords of Eastern lands or the best in Eastern lands. Shengguan Feiyun squinted, filled with battle lust. But no one would be joining him, neither the Venerables nor Zhuo Fan. Since Zhuo Fan used Shengguan Yulin to set up a different act, all to split the two Sword Kings and give him ample room to wiggle. With two Sword Kings joining hands, they'd make handling the three Venerables of Eastern lands a walk in the park. The Shengguan clan could hardly fight back and would collapse then and there. How was Zhuo Fan supposed to play in these conditions? Since you're done with them, won't that make me next? Which made this subterfuge a stalling tactic. Zhuo Fan wanted it to stretch for as long as possible, which clearly worked by all appearances. Rumble. The whole of the manor shook under the attacks. The table, chairs and cupboards fell, smashing the chinaware on display in Zhuo Fan's room. Peacefully sitting on his bed meditating, Zhuo Fan sported a sudden grin as his eyes flashed open. That must be my cue, ha. Zhuo Fan climbed out of bed and cracked the door open. Damn, did you hear that? Just what could make all that noise? Is there another break-in? That has to be it. The same thing happened last time 2 months ago. Only this time it sounds stronger. What about Sword King Feiyun? Should we go guard him? You know how those brothers ended up last time just for being moments slower? Don't worry about it. Sword King Sir has it under control. It's fine. How do you know? Dumbass, Sword King said it himself in this morning's warning. No matter what happens, we're never to leave our post. You could practically feel the premeditation in his tone. Not to mention the manor is stuffed with elites in every shadow. They must have a special task for sure. You're saying Sword King knew that we'll be under attack tonight? Why didn't he notify the guards, strengthen them? Ever heard of baiting, dumbass? But our brothers at the gate died for nothing, yes. The two guards discussed the ruckus reaching them and sighed at the implications. Nobody's like us, look haughty posing as the manor's guards once making our rounds, when in fact we're all just our lord's pawns to throw away at a whim. Let's say Sword King did give us the order to go die, would you refuse? Humph, dying under Sword King's order will mean going down with honors. Your family will be compensated, their safety assured. But if you cling to life too much, humph, you saw yourself how those brothers 2 months ago ended up, how their families are in ruins. It's not as simple as just you dying. Now which of the two endings do you find more worthy? Shuddering, the other guard grimaced and shook his head. Now he held a bit of joy in his tone. I suddenly find the crappy detail of babysitting a radiant stage alchemist to be quite nice. At least I get to keep my life, haha. The first guard nodded and grinned, though something sad hid behind his smile. That might work now, but what about next time? Ahem, Lord's matters are of no concern to us. Now stop the chatter. A third guard made his presence known as he walked over to berate them. A loose tongue will only bring trouble. If you plan on living for years to come, learn how to keep your mouth closed. The two guards shook and nodded. The third guard returned the nod and the mood eased. Crick. The door slowly opened and Zhuofan stepped out with a peculiar smile. The three guards looked oddly at him. What's Grandmaster Gu doing showing his face now of all times? A guard blocked him. Grandmaster Gu, what do you need that requires you to leave the room? Ha, nothing much, I just heard the noise and wanted a closer look. Grandmaster Gu, it's dangerous out there. Please go back inside. We'll keep you safe. The guard refused. Zhuofan smirked, and if I insist? The guards were puzzled. He's clearly toying around, but why? The only reason they treated a fifth-layer radiant stage cultivator with such respect was due to Bailey Jingwei's courteous attitude around him. So they ignored Zhuofan's posing, showing a look of ridicule. Grandmaster Gu, please don't make it any harder than it has to be. Our job is to keep you safe and, if the situation demands it, restrain you. It's all for your own good. It's too dangerous out there, so please go back inside. Don't make us use force. A guard replied respectfully but firmly. Zhuofan chuckled, with a hint of evil inside it that gave them the chills. What's with that laughter? You were saying earlier that the most worthy death is that done for the manor. The trio were stunned. Where's he going with this? Let me fulfill your wish. I sincerely hope your families have good fortunes from your passing. Zhuofan ignored the baffled guards, sighing, though I find such a death cowardly. Is that what a cultivator that defies the heavens should choose? Whoosh. A shadow extended from Zhuofan's feet that swallowed the guards in a blink. Darkness was the only thing that was present in this world. Domain Soul? One of the guards shouted, Grandmaster Gu, enough games. Take the domain down or we'll have no choice but to get serious. Won't the Lord make us account for you getting hurt? Account for? Ah, you're overthinking things. There's nothing you can explain ever. Since the only place you'll be accounted for is right here, right now. The distorted mocking voice raised the guard's hackles. Damn brat, learn when to quit. We don't want to hurt you. Why all the damn theatrics? But since it came to this. A guard shouted, Grandmaster Gu, you asked for it, so don't blame me for hurting you. He made a fist and punched at the abyss, only to find himself unable to follow through his move, paralyzed. The trio cried out, what's happening? I can't move. Haha. I guess I forgot to tell you that my domain is a twin domain, unlike any ethereal stage cultivators. The two intersect and amplify their strength to hold even soul harmony experts like you from ever escaping. Zhuofan's eerie voice came again, though freeing yourself is far easier. The darkness crept up their bodies and seeped into their very flesh, gorging on their strength. The trio wailed in terror, consumed alive by the darkness, they turned into dark statues. As the blackness faded to give way to the moonlight, Zhuofan was the only one present. A look at the sky and an ear on the ever-increasing clamor, Zhuofan smirked as he shot for Jade Falls. My turn. Chapter 907, Dreadful Sword. Chapter 907, Dreadful Sword. Proofreader, Papatonks. Whoosh. Hundreds of men in black landed in a wide space, with the moon hanging overhead. Before them were a row of buildings, though not the watery paradise they all were aiming for. Clan head, this place isn't right. It's not what it says on the map. One man looked around before going to Shangguan Feixiong to express his doubts. Shangguan Feixiong frowned, his face unnatural. He was getting a really bad feeling. There were some heavy sounds that cut off his thoughts. The black rows of houses all were filled with candlelight, and an aged voice sounded, "Shangguan clan head, it's been ages. Have you been well?" Shangguan Feixiong shuddered at the familiar voice. His face grew hard as he stepped back in terror. The rest were shocked at seeing their calm clan head out of his element. Just who was in there? Crick. An old man slowly stepped out of a lit house. With him came hundreds of Genesis and Soul Harmony experts, all releasing their power and bloodthirst. Former best in Western lands, now dragon-cleaving sword king of Central Area, Danqing Shen. Why you didn't leave? Eyes shaking, Shangguan Feixiong gnashed his teeth, his suspicions confirmed, yet his heart sank. Trap. 3 days ago their scouts watched Danqing Shen and Bailey Jingwei leave. Yet here he was now. It was all just a cover Bailey Jingwei set up, making a show of leaving and then returning to kill them. Everything was fake, so we'd take the bait. Danqing Shen's mere presence confirmed Bailey Jingwei was the one running the show. He was in the worst danger possible, far beyond just fighting two sword kings, but also being snared by Bailey Jingwei's trap. It just didn't get much worse than this. Shangguan Feixiong was soaked in sweat, his eyes frantic as panic and despair set in on his face. Danqing Shen easily read his mood, sighing, "Shangguan clan head, I have nothing against you, but as we stand on opposite camps, I'll have to offend you. Retreat." Shangguan Feixiong shouted in anger, his eyes bloodshot. He was wrecked with regret, over his lapse in judgment, over his carelessness in getting his clansmen into this danger. If they were all to perish here, Shangguan clan would be threatened, Eastern lands would be threatened, and he would become his homeland's stigma. Shangguan Feixiong's guilt was so deep his eyes looked dead. He would not hesitate to give his own life if it could save everyone else out of this disaster. His men were startled at first, but then realized from Shangguan Feixiong's ashen face that they had been trapped. They trusted their clan head's decision and withdrew at once from where they came. Danqing Shen shook his head, "Sorry, but my position demands me to stop you. You're never going to leave this place." Danqing Shen hacked with 2 fingers. A draconic roar echoed as the world changed. An outrageous flood of sword energy came, turning into dragons and converging into a half-kilometer-long draconic sword. With the howls of dragons sounding in the background, the gigantic swords might spread terror into its quarry. It felt like it could split the world in two. SSS. Every man there gasped, feeling for the first time a power like no other robbing their courage and draining their resistance. It was akin to the 3 venerables' combined attack, just that it came from one man and was on a much more insane scale. Is this the power of the Central Area's 9 sword kings? The people watching the gargantuan sword hanging overhead were overwhelmed with fear. Shangguan Feixiong watched their shocked faces, the terror in their eyes, and roared, "Don't stand there. Wake up and flee." "All right." Startling awake, the men gave Danqing Shen one last look of fear, then fled with all they had, even as their backs were icy cold. "I never wanted to harm anyone. But it'll be up to your luck." Danqing Shen sighed and his hand shone as he hacked. Oh. The grand sword descended upon the earth like a cataclysmic meteor, its pressure robbing the men of breath and the ground of stability, making it crack in pieces, beginning to actually float. While the true targets, the men that wanted to follow their clan head and fleeing, found themselves under a mountain, sinking into the earth and unable to budge an inch. Panic dominated their hearts, all stemming from the obscene power such a skill could unleash from looking death in the face. This strike would kill most of them and put an end to their mission all in one move. Dragon-cleaving Sword King's power is terrifying. Fear had reached a breaking point in their minds, now giving way to despair. Shangguan Feixiong gnashed his teeth in defiance, cursing the sword as it came for them. He drew his fingers and made a circle, unleashing a scarlet sword wave, filling the air with life and smashing into the huge sword. Danqing Shen, enough of your contempt. I may not be the best in Eastern lands, but I've earned my name through the years learning the soaring sword art from the soaring sword. Great, I can't wait to spar with a fellow insightful cultivator in divine weapons, haha. Danqing Shen chuckled at the challenge. Bam. The 2 sword attacks smashed into each other, unleashing a violent pressure and blinding light. Only Dan Shin still walked with ease, his fingers pointing out casually while Shangguan Feixiong bled from everywhere and fought to just stand upright. Dan Shin sighed, "Shangguan Feixiong, you're a clan head but haven't grasped even a third of Soaring Sword's nature. If it were your brother, this clash would have ended in a draw. A shame you have yet to catch up to him, or maybe you never will. Insight is beyond our grasp." Dan Shin felt regret as he shook his finger. Bam! Shangguan Feixiong's soaring sword wave was crushed and the huge sword continued its descent. Shangguan Feixiong spat thick blood, his eyes filled with guilt and regret. He knew Shangguan Feiyun was better than him, and he only got to lead the clan because the elders wished it. Now, with his clansmen about to be slaughtered, he was weak to stop it. This feeling of futility broke his soul and filled him with shame as a clan head. Feiyun was right, the strong are kings. If I had stepped down from my seat, he wouldn't have betrayed us and the Shangguan clan wouldn't be in such a crisis. It's all my fault. Lamenting his decisions, Shangguan Feixiong closed his eyes and awaited his death. Clan head. His men watched Shangguan Feixiong collapse and cried out. All their struggle to go to him was rendered futile by the sword's power. Dan Shin's sword was about to end them as the clansmen shouted for their head, for his name. Whoosh! But then a bright green glow shot from afar, like a shooting star cutting the night air, and smashing into the sword. Bam! A deafening ringing sounded, but with a totally different outcome than before. The dreaded sword of a sword king had been stopped. Chapter 908, No Escaped. Chapter 908, No Escape. Proofreader, Papatonks. The two gaudy sword waves clashed in the air for a moment before canceling each other out. But the storm of power they unleashed threatened to send everyone flying. Even Soul Harmony stage and Genesis stage experts felt they could take off any second. Let alone the lavish buildings around, now turned to rubble. For 50 kilometers there was nothing but sand. Once the storm faded and the winds eased, the people saw three elders standing next to Shangguan Feixiong. They were helping him to his feet, using Yuan Qi to speed his recovery. Their cold eyes, however, were always on Dan Shin, cautious. Dan Shin smiled and cupped his hands. The three greatest guardians of Eastern lands, I presume Shangguan clan's strongest venerables, three cloud swords. You give me much honor seeing me. My masters have spoken many times of you, that you were equally renowned. Today I see how true that was. Humph, exalted double dragons sure picked a fine disciple. The elders looked at Dan Shin with satire. In the end, those two old guys are the heads of Western lands, part of the Four Lands Alliance to resist the Central Area's incursion. Isn't it ironic how their disciple ends up Sword Star Empire's lapdog? The elders mocked and the other people held him in equal disdain, despite the fresh show of power. Dan Shin though let it go over him, nodding, "Seniors are most right. I did shame my masters and become Invincible Sword's lapdog. Though with so many people out there, who's to say there aren't clans with a couple of black sheep? At least I am only Double Dragon Manor's disciple, while the lord of this humble abode is the grand successor to the Shangguan clan, yet doesn't he wallow in the same filth as I? Didn't he become a lapdog too? Ha ha ha. Why you?" The venerables were red with anger, wanting to retort. Dan Shin is a traitor, but only to his exalted Double Dragon masters. They aren't kin. Every group had their own disgrace. But Shangguan Feiyun to Shangguan clan was the second young master, with the noblest blood in Eastern lands flowing through his veins, revered and admired. With someone like him turning traitor, you have the nerve to point fingers at me? The elders choked on the humiliation. They should have known better than to speak up. Their image wasn't clean, yet they started pointing out another's. What a disgrace, being talked back and unable to refute. Shangguan clansmen shook at Dan Shin's attack and lowered their heads. Shangguan Feixiong spat blood again, feeling much better. Yet he didn't try to continue recovering and grabbed the venerable's hands. "We've been duped and must flee at once or we'll all die." "I know, Feixiong, don't worry. You have us." A venerable shouted, "Men, protect the clan head as you retreat. We'll cut them off." "Yes, sir." Some men grabbed Shangguan Feixiong's arms and fled. Dan Shin turned cold and waved, "After them." The men behind him released their bloodthirst. "Yes, Sword King. Don't even think about touching our clan head." The venerables shot forth, their mighty auras locking the pursuers in place. Dan Shin's eyes shone and stepped in as well, releasing his own power to counter theirs. "Seniors, I'll keep you company. Then we'll get rid of the exalted's shame for them." The three joined hands and sword energy exploded straight for Dan Qingxin's head. He wasn't one to sit still as draconic roars sounded and a sword wave swept the sky. The four tangled up in an ongoing brutal fight. Sharp sword waves, killing moves all littered the now dazzling sky. Each clash warped the space around them, threatening to cave in on itself. None of the guards even entertained the thought of getting near, not with that hell's how going on. Dan Qingxin's Soul Harmony and Genesis stage experts were even more wary, winding around their fight before going after the Shangguan clan. The enemy's coming. 100 Genesis stage experts stay behind to hold them while the rest protects clan heads retreat. One high clansman shouted seeing the pursuit closing in. The others nodded and broke off from Shangguan Feixiong. The pursuers were no freaks like the 9 Sword Kings while Shangguan clan's men were all elites. They would have no trouble dealing with them. The retreating party experienced an odd feeling as they went on. One second they were seeing the Black Knight and the next they were back to the ruined manor. This was no defensive array, it was actually directed inward, turning it into a trap with them in it. We're stuck here. Break it so we can flee. Shangguan Feixiong panicked and ordered. The hundreds of men worked, unleashing their all-out attacks on the barrier. While the banging felt constant on the ears, there was not even a sign it had the expected effect. They were all overwhelmed by the barrier's strength, unlike the first one they passed through to get in. The 3 venerables fighting Dan Qingxin noticed this and became restless. When they finally got a breather from the fight, they unleashed a hurried sword wave at the barrier as well. Boom. This time the sound was definitely much louder and the barrier shook all over. But that was it, soon settling back to normal. It was now the venerables' turn to be shocked. What the hell is this? How can a barrier be so strong? Whoosh. A bright and colored sword wave appeared then, slashing a venerable's shoulder and forcing him to spew blood. Dan Qingxin eased his fingers and spoke, I thought you're fighting me yet you have the luxury to mind something else? The venerables gnashed their teeth in hatred. Dan Qingxin is too damn strong just like Shangguan Feiyun. They had a mere faint lapse in focus when they tried helping the Shangguan clan with the barrier, but it was enough for him to capitalize on it. In a battle of experts it could all end in seconds. This only goes double for fighters of Dan Qingxin's level. They knew that the next time they let their mind wander from the fight, the best in Western lands was going to be their end. Their moods were heavy, no longer looking relaxed around Dan Qingxin. Sorry, Feixiong, we got our work cut out for us dealing with Dragon-Cleaving Sword King. We can't help you. You're on your own. The trio ignored all else and focused on Dan Qingxin, pouring their every bit of energy on fighting a Sword King. Dan Qingxin met them halfway. Shangguan Feixiong's group kept attacking the barrier with little use. It was hard as a mountain, not even shaking like it did when the venerables attacked. This proved they were just too weak to make a dent in it. They were now stuck here with no way to retreat. They had to think of another way fast if they wanted to survive. Shangguan Feixiong was sweating, his eyes bloodshot. Haha, don't bother. There's no escape for you. In their great crisis, their danger only mounted as hundreds of men appeared out of nowhere, led by a youth, cutting off their retreat. Bailey Jingwei mocked, Shangguan clan head, save your energy, I had brought 10 of the best 11th grade array masters from the imperial capital spending half a month in sacred stones to set up this 11th grade array, Bound Heaven array. It compares to a 12th grade array in hardness, taking no less than 10 attacks of a Sword King. That means all your venerables have to do is just strike it 10 times and it will break. Though, by the looks of it, they have their hands tied with Dragon-Cleaving Sword King, so no chance there. I'm willing to bet they'll breathe their last on the 3rd attempt if they were ever foolish enough to try. You have no way of getting out of here alive. Bailey Jingwei was like a judge from hell, proclaiming Shangguan clan's fate and robbing them of any hope. Chapter 909, Seal. Chapter 909, Seal. Proofreader, Papatonks. Bailey Jingwei. Shangguan Feixiong's eyes shook, howling curses like a mad beast consumed with hatred. As he looked from Dan Qingxin and the 3 venerables to his clansmen, Shangguan Feixiong's energy left him, regarding Bailey Jingwei and his hundreds of guards. In the deadlock that he was with the enemy, having lost numerical advantage as well, he knew defeat was certain. The only option. Shangguan Feixiong's eyes flashed and shouted as he led the charge with his broken body, get the head. Capture Bailey Jingwei and we may survive. Roar. The men grew spirited and followed their clan head into battle. Rustle. As the Shangguan clan got filled with valor and approached, Bailey Jingwei remained utterly calm around his Genesis stage expert guards. In fact, he didn't even register them. Haha, get the head, is it? Not a bad idea. But can you do it? Bailey Jingwei smirked, fearless in front of their ruthless charge. He felt in complete control, merely shrugging as he said, "Attack." "Yes, sir." His guards went to meet the charge, leaving 30 behind. The two forces howled at the top of their lungs to hide their fear, to spur themselves on, all for survival or for orders. In this barrier, the battlefield was split in 3 areas. Danqing Shin fighting Shangguan clan's 3 venerables, the 100 experts of Shangguan clan against the pursuers behind, and Shangguan Feixiong leading his men to catch Bailey Jingwei through the latter's guards. Though one recurring theme to all these locations was the Hell's Cape that was painted with every drop of blood and loss of life. Shangguan clan found its force split in 3, the worst situation one could have on the field of battle and a result of Bailey Jingwei's plan. The highest danger came when being flanked. The only chance of survival lay with Shangguan Feixiong and if he could grab Bailey Jingwei. Pity that chance was nil. Ignoring the fact they were fighting more and better guards than them, even if they reached him, there were still 30 guards keeping him safe. Regardless of how one looked, everything was pointless. But it was human nature to seek survival, to seek for a way out where there was none. This led to Shangguan clan's obsession. 2 guards presented from nowhere an imperial tutor chair and a square table carved from a pear tree before Bailey Jingwei, along with tea. Bailey Jingwei quietly sat down, sipping his tea and watching the bloody act live, with the howls and wails reaching his unfiltered ears. None of which managed to even make him twitch. Shangguan clan strong are dealt with like this, and their position in Eastern lands is shaky. Eastern lands' days are numbered. Only? Bailey Jingwei frowned, surveying the lively battlefield with unease. Where's this feeling coming from? And why? Everything's going like clockwork, so why do I feel like I'm missing something? Bailey Jingwei frowned. His demeanor exuded calm, covering the inner turmoil he didn't know the cause of. This had never happened before in his long career of schemes. Near the Jade Falls, 10 Soul Harmony stage guards were on their patrol. When the sounds of battle reached them, they rejoiced, fortunate to be stuck as night guards and able to keep their lives. Sometimes, danger would come knocking instead. Whoosh! Something black landed in front of them, startling them into shouting, "Who's there?" "It's me." Panting, Zhuofan revealed his frantic face in the moonlight. The men reacted in shock. "Grandmaster Gu? What are you doing here?" "There are not enough men, so I'm passing Sword King's order." Zhuofan took a deep breath and pointed in the direction of the battle, saying with scorn, "Can you hear that? The thieves are much stronger than anticipated, and Sir Sword King has ordered all of you to help." And Zhuofan's eyes darted around while urging them to go. The men were skeptical. There are many other Genesis experts around, so why come to us, Soul Harmony experts? What can we even do? That's why I came to you, to give you the Lord's secret order. Zhuofan grew more nervous as he said, "With the enemy's great force, Sword King wants to limit the casualties and outsmart them. What are you afraid of?" Doubt still lingered in their eyes. The manor hasn't run out of men, so why send a new alchemist to pass orders? But from Zhuofan's frantic look and radiant stage cultivation, they could understand it and let their guard down. What else could this pipsqueak do than be an errand boy? What if they failed Sword King's big plan? Let's at least wait after we heard the message. The 10 men went over to Zhuofan. "Yes, now hurry up, we can't have anyone listening on Lord's secret order." Zhuofan called them over constantly, but his mouth curved into a devious smile. As the 10 guards reached him, waiting for the message, what they heard instead was a creepy tone. "Sword King's order is for all of you to die." Whoosh! In a flash of black, Zhuofan made a full circle around them. They watched in shock as their bodies twitched once and folded. They fell backwards yet saw their legs still standing straight. Zhuofan's black sword was gone before they could see it, walking away. All that remained were pair of legs, frozen in time. "Now I can seal the whirlwind tunnel with none the wiser." Looking at the wonder of waterfalls in front of him, Zhuofan's eyes shone with success. Clang! A scarlet blade flashed again, coming to take Zhuofan's life. Zhuofan was amazed. For God's sake, that damn Shangguan Feiyu knew Shangguan clan is after the soaring sword, so why the hell didn't he move it? Is he that bored wanting someone to just take it? Or is he that confident in Bailey Jingwei's plan that there's no point? Sighing, Zhuofan shook his head and his right eye flashed in 7 golden halos. The murderous sword suddenly shook in midair, halting in place. It even looked scared. Grinning, Zhuofan said, "I'm not here for you, but it'll be a pain if you mess things up midway. I'd better get rid of you first." Sixth grade sacred weapon, soaring sword. As his evil tone fell, the space around him shook and warped in the sword's direction. The mighty pressure made the haughty sacred weapon give up its plan and flee back to its lair behind the water. Shit, how did it know that? Wasn't it some basic animal? How? Soaring sword's core crumbled just then, having lost its scarlet edge and sharpness. Even so, Zhuofan was not about to stop there. Who knew what that thing would be planning later? Divine Eye of the Void, 7th stage, Void Seal. Zhuofan's right eye shone with 7 golden halos. The space slowly solidified as it put pressure around the soaring sword. It was forced to be stuck in place once more, only able to shake all over and hum as if to plead. Zhuofan showed no quarter, amping the pressure some more and placing it all on the soaring sword. The sword stopped moving and fell to the ground lifeless. A 6th grade sacred weapon, the divine sword of eastern lands, had its spirit sealed, losing its power. Chapter 9-10. Just what's happening? Chapter 9-10. Just what's happening? Proofreader, Papatonks. Walking over to the divine sword and picking it up, Zhuofan traced the scarlet blade with a smile before he placed it in his ring. The divine sword was now dead inside and lacked the power of a sacred weapon. He only had to look and use Divine Eye of the Void, 7th stage Void Seal, and the sword's spirit ended up sealed in space. It was one of the few skills within Heavenly Sovereign's 12 stages art that could trap someone. And that was forever in a different space pocket. Zhuofan reckoned, the 5 great sacred beasts fell victim to this skill and endured torture in the mortal domain. Zhuofan's own Divine Eye of the Void, 7th stage had just been achieved. Sealing spiritual beasts was hard enough, let alone sacred beasts. Thus sealing the ignorant sword spirit was much easier. He'd reach omnipotence only by getting to Heavenly Sovereign's cultivation. Zhuofan was looking forward to it. The more he gleaned into the Divine Eye of the Void, the more realized there was no limit to Heavenly Sovereign. Such an ultimate skill had to have taken millions of years, so how could he, a mere copycat junior, be a match in any way? Zhuofan took a deep breath, sighing at the depressing thought. He had to figure out a way out of this deadly situation, if he wanted to get rid of his loneliness. And that only started maturing recently. Zhuofan shook his head of all these bad thoughts, looking up with confidence once more as he stepped for the waterfalls. Whoosh! The roar of water falling from ungodly heights sounded as constant explosions with each step closer. Yet the magnificence of this world wonder was lost on Zhuofan, who checked the moon and stars for his direction. The Big Dipper, so here? Zhuofan's eyes flashed looking at the shining 7 stars arranged across the night sky as he searched their matching location here on the ground. He flicked his hand and sacred stones flew out into the earth. Minutes later, Zhuofan took a deep breath, having done the hard part. With this, a fallback is in place. So even if they do find out something is off here by chance, I can escape. Haha, hardly any in mortal domain know much about star arrays, haha. Zhuofan now turned to the water park, his face hard. It's time to seal this place. Whoosh! Zhuofan hovered under the moonlight, sending sacred stones down like rain. In the next hours, the situation shifted all over the manor. The roars, howls and wails on the blood-streaked ground were proof the men had gone insane, seeing nothing but red. Jade Falls was silent by contrast. All the guards had been mobilized against Shangguan clan, leaving but 10 to watch this place. Though hardly a challenge for a man of Zhuofan's caliber to dispose of. It was exactly how he wanted it, peace and quiet, so he'd finish his own plan, throwing more sacred stones than a shopping addict. In a dark little room, Shangguan Feiyun was hearing the commotion as he patiently waited like a fool. His men, part of the ambush, were quite bored but had no choice in the matter. They've been at it for an hour now. Why isn't anyone coming here as well? If they don't show, I'll go there to fight myself. Curses, was that Shangguan Yulin's info right or not? Young Sanzi. A bright voice echoed around the water garden, carrying her eagerness and worry as she tried to keep her tone low as possible while also searching for someone. Zhuofan shook and his hands paused, his mood affected. What's this last doing here? I thought Shangguan clan had you all kids run off. Zhuofan went back to work, his face back to normal if not colder. Not my problem. Since you hate freedom so much, hell's doors are wide open for you. You clearly have a death wish coming here. What an annoying chick. Young Sanzi. Her voice drew closer, right up to the roaring waterfalls. Following her was a man. Cousin, not so loud or the guards will catch us. I know, cousin. Shengguan Qingyan was tense as she kept calling out, Young Sanzi. Young. Shengguan Qingyan noticed Zhuofan in midair spraying sacred stones for his array, and the situation stunned her. Shengguan Yulin started as well. He knew Zhuofan was in the manor, but what was he doing here exactly? Zhuofan only spared them a look, deigning it not worthy to stop his project for them. Sir Gu? Shengguan Qingyan stammered, What are you doing here? Shouldn't you be at the imperial capital with Bailey Jingwei? Zhuofan did not respond. Hey punk, my cousin asked you a question. What's going on here? Shengguan Yulin was overjoyed, using this chance to paint this guy the scapegoat for this disaster. In his mind, since Zhuofan had been seen as a spy and wasn't dead, that meant he betrayed them as well. It was only natural since the great young master of Shengguan clan could, some thick yokel couldn't be faring any better. Him having more integrity than me? Like that's gonna happen. Humph, I'll have you know I received a much higher education. Shengguan Yulin still couldn't get rid of his young master airs, his mind stuck with hopeless fantasies. Zhuofan mocked and toyed, Cousin, you're saying you don't know? How should I know? Shengguan Yulin tensed. Does he know everything? Did Bailey Jingwei tell him? How could Bailey Jingwei just expose someone as important as me? I may be a spy, but I'm also a hidden ace. How's a prime minister so sloppy? Zhuofan eyed him and mocked him while his hands did all the work. Ha, cousin, you're so rotten no one could surpass you nor ever will. The term degenerate demon is practically made for you. What how do you know that? Shengguan Yulin panicked. Only that sicko, wait. Zhuofan turned to Shengguan Qingyan, if you value your life, walk away. If you want to know everything, you're welcome to stay, but so will your life. Just what's happening? What are you talking about? Shengguan Qingyan shook as she watched Zhuofan's evil smirk with doubt. Zhuofan had dispensed with his usual childish act and was now showing deep and mysterious eyes. She had never seen eyes like these, but she had been warned by her elders to get as far away from them. They were toxic and undecipherable while always at danger of being killed. Zhuofan gave her that feeling, a man shrouded in secrets. While Shengguan Yulin's tense face was painting a different picture, Cousin, what's going on? How should I know? Don't listen to his nonsense. Shengguan Yulin evaded and glared at Zhuofan with bloodthirst. Just how many secrets does this punk know? I have to silence him for good either way and stop him from running his mouth and ruining my return to Eastern lands. Shengguan Yulin shot straight for Zhuofan, bent on snuffing him out. Though not forgetting about making Zhuofan the fall guy for everything under the sun. Gu Yifan, you sold the Shengguan clan. That's why you're back. I'm going to make you pay. Cousin, wait. We're not sure if, Shengguan Qingyan cried, but Shengguan Yulin had no intention of listening. Shengguan Yulin was right next to Zhuofan now, unleashing his full power as a soul harmony stage cultivator as he brought down his savage fist on his prey's head. All Shengguan Qingyan did was to tense up and look in worry. She hated herself for wasting time instead of focusing on cultivation. A mere 8th layer ethereal stage cultivation was nowhere close enough to stop a soul harmony expert's blow, let alone catch him. Zhuofan was about to bite the dust and Shengguan Qingyan began crying, unable to do anything but shout, Don't, cousin. Mr. Gu, look out. Zhuofan's arms never slowed in setting up an array, despite death looming over him. Shengguan Yulin's face was twisted as his punches came for his head, speaking evilly for his ears alone, Punk, I've wanted to do this ages ago. I finally got the chance, so die. Zhuofan's flat look and unresponsive attitude exuded complete disregard. Only as the last sacred stone left his hand did he sigh, done at last. What? Shengguan Yulin was stumped. Giving him a cold look, Zhuofan turned to the fist coming for his face, I told you not to goddamn bother me. Bam. Shengguan Yulin slammed into the ground in a cloud of dust. As it scattered, Shengguan Qingyan watched Shengguan Yulin laying in a half-a-mile crater with his chest caved in and spitting blood. He was looking with fear at the hovering man, unable to process what happened. Zhuofan lowered his right hand and wiped it with the other, just like removing a swatted fly. The action left Shengguan Qingyan in shock. A radiant stage cultivator had just pulverized a soul harmony expert like it was nothing. Mr. Gu, what are you? Shengguan Qingyan was overwhelmed and perplexed by this mystery man, her delicate face expressing her naked confusion. Chapter 9:11, The High Moon Seals the Falls. Chapter 9:11, The High Moon Seals the Falls. Proofreader, Papatonks. Zhuofan drifted down to the ground, disregarding completely the pale and dying Shangguan Yulin or the shocked and frozen Shangguan Qingyan. His cold eyes were on the falls, his hands raised to start the array. Shangguan Qingyan's heart was jumping in her chest watching this proud figure. He's nothing like before. He was completely different, like a stranger. For some odd reason, this version of Gu Yifan had a certain devilish charm to him that made her not let him out of her sight. The insane power had a part to play, sure, but so did his mysterious air he carried himself with. Sir Gu? Zhuofan was about to work on the signs when she suddenly said, "Young Sanzi is gone. I think he came to the manor to look for you. We should go look for him and leave here before." The gestures paused and Zhuofan frowned. "Is that why you ran here? You just jumped into danger over something as lame as that?" The wounded Shangguan Yulin in his crater felt his face twitching at the question. "Fine, so I came along with you to this place for no reason and ended up half dead, but I cannot accept you still ignoring my plight and only ever thinking about that damn brat. I'm the one in most danger here." All kinds of annoyances, grievances and rage got bottled up in his throat. Shangguan Yulin was close to crying, not like Zhuofan and Shangguan Qingyan had time to mind a dying man. He might just as well be dead already. It only worked to fuel his bad thoughts. Young Sanzi is still a child and running here is dangerous. Shangguan Qingyan spoke heavily, "Mr. Gu, no matter what you do, you must first look for him and make sure he's safe." Eyeing her firm eyes, Zhuofan paused and turned around. "You don't have to worry about young Sanzi. He's not here. I asked him to leave you and meet me someplace else. I'll go see him in a moment." "What?" Shangguan Qingyan was shocked. Shangguan Yulin rolled his eyes, his heart aggrieved. "Cow, see that? While you're worried about that thing, his father already left himself a way out. Your kind intentions only make it worse. He doesn't care at all." Shangguan Qingyan's brow shook and gasped. "You mean you two lied to me?" "We've been lying about everything." Zhuofan spoke. "I'm leaving since the commotion will attract Bailey Jingwei and the others. Leave as well if you want to live or you're going to die at their hands." Shangguan Qingyan was obstinate as she watched his cold back. "Are you trying to get me to escape? Then tell me the truth first. Talk or not, I'll know everything if I just stay. Including those things you two hid from me." Zhuofan paused and nodded. "Fine, then I'm not leaving. Let's see just how much you hid from me." "Your funeral." Zhuofan sighed. "I gave you a chance as a favor for all you did for young Sanzi. But since you're suicidal, that's your problem." Zhuofan ignored all and his hand weaved signs. With every gesture that left Zhuofan's hand, his fingers looked like dancing fireflies in the darkness, stealing Shangguan Qingyan's breath away. The smooth movements showed his expertise in arrays and astounded the little girl to no end. The formidable alchemist she thought Zhuofan was turned out not to be his only talent. Arrays were part of his repertoire as well. Just who was this man? Shangguan Qingyan had dumb look on her face. Zhuofan's eyes were icy regardless, focused on the endless falls and his dancing hands. "Rise, O moon in the sky, letting the waves climb and reach for your height. Let them enter the moon palace as mist, my nature frozen within." Zhuofan finished by extending a finger. The jade falls surged, trembled and moved, the water splashing everywhere in fine mist. The moon above, drawn to something, sent its cold rays on the falls. The bright moonlight stung the eyes, the icy air chilling to the bone and making everyone close to the falls shiver. The falls shook harder now like the rumblings of a huge wave. Shangguan Qingyan's lost eyes watched the spectacle in shock. What kind of array is this? And why did Mr. Gu set it up? Shangguan Qingyan cast her curious eyes on Zhuofan, whose icy face finally revealed a faint smile. The gaudy moonlight flashed brighter before fading for good, revealing an astounding sight to Shangguan Qingyan. The majestic and wondrous falls froze in a glittering ice sculpture that ran for miles. The magnificent view touched this girl's heart. Zhuofan poked it with a finger and the ice crumbled, scattering to pieces. With this, the frozen falls were no more and the jade falls were gone. The whirlwind tunnel was now sealed, making sure the drawing array inside would not be damaged. His job was done here. "What did you do? How could you destroy something so beautiful?" Shangguan Qingyan huffed at the loss, complaining to Zhuofan. Zhuofan shook his head. "What an ignorant lass. With that commotion, those guys should be making their way here. Yet you don't care about your wee life but some scenery. I see you're as sharp as a marble. Zhuofan listened to the slaughter dying down. What do you care? Can't I just die with that image as the last thing I see? Humph. Shengguan Qingyan huffed at him but sighed in the end. Regardless, she was not one to see the reality. But at this time, going against her very nature was her desire to know this man's secret. So she was stubborn. Shengguan Qingyan peeked at him with a bitter smile. The Shengguan Qingyan who disdained men finally did such a dumb thing as well. Sounds of people getting near were heard from the battlefield, now that the fighting stopped. Going back 2 minutes, the Shengguan clan and the guards were entangled in a fight to the death. Blood flowed like a river and casualties piled higher and higher. Yet not even the gory display could soothe Bailey Jingwei's worry. As for the venerables, with one of them wounded, their stance was growing shaky against Dan Qingshen. Coupled with Bailey Jingwei's bound heaven array, the Shengguan clan was done for. None would leave this place alive, not Shengguan Feixiong or his venerables. Eastern Land's power would fall, a house divided against itself. It would present Bailey Jingwei with the perfect moment to strike. The Four-Land Alliance would sport a crack as result and the central area would have the best chance to go to war with them. By the looks of it, the odds stood with Bailey Jingwei in seeing the lands united in his lifetime. The fight this night affected the unity of all the lands. Bailey Jingwei held it in very high regard. Just that there was this one nagging feeling, even as victory was around the corner. Something he couldn't shake. Where is the problem? What have I missed? Bailey Jingwei sank in thought. Chapter 9:12, Escaped. Chapter 9:12, Escape. Proofreader, Papatonks. Clan head, half of our men are dead. We can't hold on much longer. Clan head, we can't make a breach. The enemy's too strong. Clan head, we're surrounded. Clan head, the venerables can't take much more. Every shout was urgent and disastrous as it reached Shengguan Feixiong's bloody ears. I was wrong, completely wrong. He shouldn't have risked it for greed after he knew Bailey Jingwei and Dan Qingshen were around. But he still went in for the soaring sword and look where that got him. The Shengguan clan wouldn't be in this mess if it weren't for him. The venerables wouldn't be so hard-pressed. It was all the clan head's fault for not analyzing the situation, for disregarding the signs. He turned from the exhausted venerables to the bodies of his men on the ground as more were added with a pitiful cry and a spray of blood. Their screams jarred his ears and tears of blood fell from his eyes. Brothers, I've let you all down. Clan head, don't say that, it's all that cunning Bailey Jingwei's fault for trapping us. One Genesis stage expert rushed over and held his exhausted, bloodied and faltering form as he spat. We just have to get hold of him and Shengguan Feiyun will have to let us go. The man led the others. Brothers, follow me. Take Bailey Jingwei and help clan head in escaping. Take Bailey Jingwei. Help clan head escape. Shengguan clan's men roared like man-beasts in their charge for Bailey Jingwei. The man in question still stood calmly behind hundreds of guards, leaving no gap for them to exploit. A group rallied under cries of killing, using nothing but reckless bravery and suicidal actions in attempt to push through. But the tight group of guards were ruthless. As the howls consumed the air and limbs were flying every which way, the small charging group fell defeated and Shengguan Feixiong slumped to the ground in despair. Those dead eyes saw only blood, his heart in the grips of torture. Prime Minister, the thieves lost their will and the fight will end soon. A guard reported as he saw Shengguan Feixiong's spirit fading, mocking, Sir's planning is brilliant and invincible. Bailey Jingwei nodded with a stony face, yet frowned instead of smiling. He looked in the distance at the quiet ahead and said, the fight had been going on for a couple of hours now, so why isn't there anything coming from Sword King Feiyun? Is something going on here? Haha, Prime Minister is too worried. What could be going on when the whole of Shengguan clan is stuck here? The guard bowed. Moreover, victory is within our grasp. Even without Sword King Feiyun joining, it'll be fine. These thieves are going nowhere. Bailey Jingwei pondered and nodded. That may be the case, but with Sword King Feiyun around, it would save us the trouble. Boom. A loud explosion drowned his voice, shaking the air not too far away. Bailey Jingwei jerked and looked over. Whoosh. The cold moonlight shone down like a pillar upon this mortal domain in all its glory. The sudden display put a halt on the bloody massacre, forcing the men to cover their eyes. A few minutes after, the moonlight faded, but not the shock on the men's faces. What was that? Bailey Jingwei raised an eyebrow at the sudden disturbance. He looked around and cried, "That's where the Jade Falls are. The soaring sword. We've been played?" Bailey Jingwei shook and looked appalled at the discovery. He turned to the Shangguan clan, on the verge of dying, and was filled with indecision. But then he snapped, "Open the barrier and follow me to the fall to protect the divine sword." Startled, the guards bowed at once. "Prime Minister, we can't. The thieves are about to fall. If we open the barrier, they'll escape." Pa. Bailey Jingwei slapped him hard in anger. "Damn slave, since when are you the Prime Minister? Humph, there's nothing more important than the soaring sword. It's the Patriarch's desired item. If we lose it, I can't take the fall and neither can any of you. Don't just stand there, open it." Shuddering, the man bobbed his head and made signs along with the others to open the barrier. The space cleared with a ripple and the cool evening air blew across their faces. The Shangguan clan never felt so alive as each new breath felt so precious. Having not been through such desperate fighting before, only now they did realize how good it felt to be alive. "Dragon-cleaving Sword King, stop fighting and come with me to protect the soaring sword." The Shangguan clan might relax now, but Bailey Jingwei's group was agitated. The Prime Minister, always calm and shrewd, lost his bearing, shouting at the top of his lungs. He took the lead for the falls, his men following right after to provide safety. All the guards were soon gone, leaving Shangguan clan's battered men like they didn't exist. Dan Shin paused and waved at the three. "Seniors, let's stop. I have to go over there. Do what you want now." He flew for the falls and grinned inside. "That boy did it? Haha, he's really something to do it under the noses of two factions, ha." Dan Shin didn't know what Zhuo Fan's planned, but he knew he did it. "Dan Shin, don't you dare run. We still have thousands of moves to take you dash, cough." One venerable shouted but was soon forced to stop from a coughing fit. The other two sighed. "Third, just stop. It's clear we're the ones losing so far. Fighting any longer will be the end of us. Don't brag or it'll look foolish." The man turned to the two and sighed. The first in Western lands isn't a pushover at all. They rushed to Shangguan Feixiong's side to see to him. "How are you feeling, Feixiong? Clan head, are you all right?" The clan was around him, looking at him with worry. His eyes still held some fear as Shangguan Feixiong looked at their faces. "Did we just survive? Someone went to steal soaring sword while we fought. They panicked and rushed to protect it. It can be counted as surviving." One venerable sighed. "Just who could this third party be? He must be really shrewd to play us both for fools. Feixiong, should we go see? Soaring sword is right there. Maybe we can use this chance to take it?" Shangguan Feixiong's face shook with desire but refused. "No, our greed made us suffer many casualties so far. We can't go through another disaster. I want all of the Shangguan clan to retreat, leave this dangerous place. With Bailey Jingwei around, it won't be easy taking chances. It's best not to fall for another trap." "But the soaring sword is so close. Are we leaving it just like that?" "No, I and the venerables are the strongest and can escape with ease. We will go." A venerable was dissatisfied, but Shangguan Feixiong's stance was firm. "The rest are to leave Flying Cloud City and meet up with the others outside." Clan head. "My mind is made up." Shangguan Feixiong cut at their protests. "I've made one mistake and won't make another. Shangguan Feixiong is important, but I won't ruin Shangguan clan's future for it." The men had no choice but to give up at their clan head's insistence. The venerables nodded. Shangguan clan's main force easily got away with Zhuo Fan's map while Shangguan Feixiong and the venerables went for the falls. Unaware the precious soaring sword both factions were fighting over had been so easily taken by the same person they regarded as a mere pawn. Chapter 9:13, Speculation. Chapter 9:13, Speculation. Proofreader, Papatonks. Whoosh. The wind whistled as many men came down from the air before what was known as Jade Falls. They all had expressions of shock on them at the scene. Moving from the melting icy bits on the ground to the two people she thought she knew, what she found was Zhuo Fan's ice-cold eyes that filled her with fear, making her stagger back. Bailey Jingwei was fuming mad. His brow was shaking as understanding hit him. The nice guy persona was replaced with one of seriousness and gloom as he snapped at Zhuo Fan. "Grandmaster Gu, what exactly is this? Are you going to offer any explanation?" Zhuo Fan smiled as his only response. Whoosh. Next to arrive was Dan Shin and Shangguan Feixiong with his three venerables. The strangeness of the situation got to them as well. Shangguan Feixiong was looking even more perplexed at the sight of his dear daughter. What is going on here? What are the two of them doing here instead of the meeting place? It was a strange scene for sure, seeing Bailey Jingwei, the pillar of the Sword Star Empire, and the Shangguan clan's top four standing side by side. They did not look to have any intention to fight at all. The gaps in their knowledge in this situation had their basic nature overridden. Their minds were too consumed in trying to understand what went on here than killing each other in rage. All stared at the youth in front with desire to clear this conundrum. Yinner, what's happening here? Why did you come here? Shangguan Feixiong's eyes twitched, staring at his daughter. Shangguan Qingyan winced and peeked at Zhuo Fan before turning to her father with a shrug. Dad, I am not sure myself. I only came to look for young Sanzi, but who knows what really happened? You don't know either? Why are you standing here then? Shangguan Feixiong stared at his daughter in confusion. Bailey Jingwei snorted. Shangguan clan head, you're playing the fool now? Like your clan is not the obvious culprit behind this? Bailey Jingwei, what's that supposed to mean? What did we do exactly? Shangguan Feixiong glared at him in anger. The Shangguan clan is righteous in action, straightforward and responsible. We own our actions but never take the fall for others. Bailey Jingwei, you'd better explain yourself. Explain? Bailey Jingwei raised a mocking eyebrow. It doesn't get much clearer than this. Humph, Shangguan clan head, I take my hat off to you. You have some serious nerves to play such a dangerous game. To steal the soaring sword, you used all of your clansmen as bait so Gu Yifan, a whelp, could move alone and take advantage of the light guard. Haha, I do respect you, this move is glorious and I know when I'm beat. It never crossed my mind that the ever-righteous clan head of the Shangguan clan would also be a shrewd old man. Sword King Feiyun is far stronger than Sir, but had no chance still in winning the head position from you. This explains why humph. Shangguan Feixiong was taken aback, more confused than ever. The venerables shouted, Bailey Jingwei, enough of your bullshit. Our clan head has always been kind and righteous, discussing with the elders before using his position. He's not shady and cruel as you shamelessly claim him to be. Shangguan Feiyun failed to win the head position due to his overconfidence and failure to get the public support. There's no conspiracy here at all. Bailey Jingwei, let's fight if you want, but don't try staining our clan head's good name or us three will put you in your place. These hypocrites. Bailey Jingwei mocked, I did take clan head to have a big heart until now. But with his board open to me, his ruthlessness exposed, willing to use the blood of hundreds of his clansmen just for the sake of getting soaring sword, he's nothing more than a clan head with a nation ruler's designs. That's no gentleman if I ever saw one. As Bailey Jingwei's revulsion became more apparent, the venerables grew more pissed. Shangguan Feixiong was still lost in a deep fog. What did I do? How am I suddenly shameless and devious like a ruler? I'm just a cultivator, valuing heart, morals and integrity. How am I suddenly like those mortals? Dan Qingxin kept his realizations to himself, hiding a grin. He only peeked at Zhuo Fan to see him enjoying the drama. The brat toyed with these big men to the end, ha. Whoosh. There were more visitors coming, interrupting each side's nagging. After uselessly guarding his designated spot the better part of night, Shangguan Feiyun finally joined the ruckus here. He didn't even register the cold looks he gained all around, opting for just standing there, frozen, and watching where the usual Grand Jade Falls had to be, only to find it gone. And like everyone else, maybe more even, he flew off the handle. What the hell is going on here? Where's my paradise? Where is the Jade Falls? Where is it? Bailey Jingwei rolled his eyes, his tone biting. Is this the time to be concerned with some water park, Sword King Feiyun? The problem here is the soaring sword. Oh right, the soaring sword. Since the water's gone, where is the sword? Shangguan Feiyun shook awake and glared at everyone present like they each owed him a fortune. He finally chose to rest that savage gaze on his brother. Old coot, return the soaring sword if you know what's good for you. Do it now while I still consider you kin. Shangguan Feixiong's face twitched hard, wanting nothing more than to snap back at this traitor. Soaring sword belongs to Eastern lands, not your personal item. It's all in my right to take it back. Though it was sensible to gauge the precarious circumstances and keep it to himself. Would he just admit that he had it by saying that? Fighting again without even knowing the reason behind it would make them look like a joke. The third party who has the sword will be having the time of his life at our expense. Shangguan Feixiong thus ignored the blatant threat and taunt, and instead said in a dark tone, I don't have it. Who else is there? Humph, stop playing the goddamn fool. Who'd believe you? Shangguan Feiyun mocked. Shangguan Feixiong's face darkened. Bailey Jingwei smirked. Shangguan clan head, please stop playing word games with me. It might not be on you but with another. But isn't he on your side all the same? Bailey Jingwei pointed at Zhuo Fan in anger. All eyes snapped on the youth, but Shangguan Feixiong actually chuckled at that. Prime Minister Bailey, you got it all twisted. Soaring Sword only sees Shangguan clansmen and not nobodies. Shangguan Feiyun snorted. Shangguan Feixiong had to agree as well. Soaring Sword was quite willful and only liked those it spent a long time with. It did not just up and accept some brat it barely saw. That's impossible. Bailey Jingwei still looked convinced of his speculation. The central area has the Sundering Sword, so of course I know a divine weapon's temper. I just have a feeling that Grandmaster Gu can take the divine weapon regardless of not being part of the Shangguan clan. Aren't I right, Grandmaster Gu? Zhuo Fan's eyebrows rose and regarded Big Dipper's striking array with a devious smile. He ignored everyone as he walked up to the Big Dipper striking array. Prime Minister Bailey sure is sharp about everything, haha. So you do have the divine sword. Bailey Jingwei cried out, his bloodthirst increasing. Shangguan Feixiong's group looked at Zhuo Fan in shock. Chow. He's no Shangguan clansman. Chapter 914, The Whole Truth. Chapter 914, The Whole Truth. Proofreader, Papatonks. Not leaving Zhuo Fan out of his sight, Shangguan Feixiong spoke with trembling eyes. Yifan W, what's going on here? Why would the Soaring Sword be with you? We've suffered at another's ambush and now you have some explaining to do. Dad, you were ambushed? Shangguan Qingyan came to realize what those roars and noise from before were. It wasn't Shangguan clan's charge into the manor but from being massacred. Dad, what about our people? How many died? Shangguan Feixiong gnashed his teeth. There are many dead, but thankfully the disturbance here had Bailey Jingwei remove the barrier and we have now escaped total defeat. Shangguan Qingyan sighed, her worries eased, but also giving Zhuo Fan an incredulous look. Mr. Gu, why did you do this? So it wasn't Shangguan clan head's grand plan. Gauging the father and daughter's reactions, Bailey Jingwei's brow shook. Shangguan Feixiong looked at him like an idiot, his words condescending. They say the Prime Minister of Swordstar Empire is wise beyond anyone. Now I see how overstated it is. No matter how much I care about the divine sword, it's nothing but an item that needs a user to display its power. There's no way I'd ever risk myself and my clan's lives to get it. And even if we do get it, who's to wield it? Like Prime Minister said, it's a risky move with small chance of success and high risks. The brilliant Prime Minister can't see it either? The risk isn't worth it. Oh, I see, we've both fallen for it. Bailey Jingwei shuddered and muttered. Tonight there was actually a third player on the board. We considered ourselves as big players, doing everything to advance towards our goals. This in turn made us blind to the strings attached to us, moving to another's whims, killing each other and paving his way to success. What a mistake. Not once did it occur to me that there may be another enemy than the Shangguan clan in play. Becoming another's pawn has turned into the biggest shame of my life. Both sides were now in the clear and their eyes focused on Zhuo Fan in shock and suspicion. For the first time, Bailey Jingwei used a cold tone towards the highly esteemed Grandmaster Gu. Who are you? Who do you work for? Gu Yifan, an average, lone and roaming alchemist at your service, ha ha ha. The flippancy ticked everyone off. These guys were strong, big shots of their own lands, but they were nothing but a bloody amusement for some whelp. They were sure to become laughingstock. These men had been so used to being in charge on their high horse, they could disregard anything but the gross lack of disrespect. Bailey Jingwei and the Shangguan clan regarded Zhuo Fan with bloodthirst, wishing nothing more than tear him limb from limb. Zhuo Fan was now public enemy number one, garnering all their hatred. Oh, except Shangguan Qingyan, who looked worried sick. She didn't know Zhuo Fan had a way out ready and was torn in two. Zhuo Fan looked unfazed by all the animosity he collected, jeering and actually enjoying the other's ill will that only seemed to grow with each of his demeaning actions. He's surrounded by experts on all sides yet has the time to gloat. This would not stand, especially not to Shangguan Feixiong, the step-uncle. Gu Yifan, I always thought this was a trap, Bailey Jingwei elaborated, but it was you all along. You made a fake map so you could trap us. Haha, of a sort. Though not the entire truth. Zhuo Fan gave a wide smile, droning on, giving you the real one wouldn't have made a difference, not when the wise Prime Minister Bailey saw through it all and would place the trap accordingly. All I did was choose the location. Bailey Jingwei shuddered. You knew everything? Since when? Pill King Convention. Overconfident in the fact he was about to slip away, Zhuofan found no harm in gloating with an evil smirk. It was painfully obvious to me what you were intending when and how you held the Pill King Convention. It was all within my estimations when you instigated Shangguan Yulin to help you. Shangguan Yulin was a traitor? Shangguan Feixiong and Shangguan Qingyan winced. Their own kin had sold them out to their enemy. They both looked at Zhuofan in bewilderment. Only Bailey Jingwei's sudden reaction confirmed Zhuofan's words. Bailey Jingwei squinted, shocked but hiding it well. Since you knew, then you pulled all the strings till today. Heavily wounded and in his crater, Shangguan Yulin spat blood and was on the verge of tears. Prime Minister sir, you sure know how to ruin your own people. You're basically admitting to Shangguan Feixiong that I'm a traitor. How am I to get back to Eastern lands now? How am I to continue to be your spy? Regardless of his random personal rants, ever since Zhuofan revealed the whole unvarnished truth, whether Shangguan Feixiong believed it or not, he himself began to doubt his value as a spy. Bailey Jingwei proved it by giving him up without a second thought. Haha, give the smart Prime Minister a prize. You guessed it in one try. Zhuofan smiled. Bailey Jingwei clenched his fists as anger boiled within his breast. Humph, Grandmaster Gu, are you patronizing me or being snarky? It's a first for me being a genius in retrospect. Isn't that better than being aimless till the end? Haha. Zhuofan quirked a taunting eyebrow. What? Bailey Jingwei grimaced at the cheap shot, with some even hearing his gritting teeth. Anyone would be pissed being mocked like Zhuofan was doing. Bailey Jingwei knew he was no great cultivator in the Sword Star Empire. His only pride lay in his sharp mind, his perfect policies and flawless stratagems. Zhuofan proved to him now that all that confidence was only worth insults to the other. It was his first time feeling so much shame and anger. He was the one who always toyed with others, and finding himself on the other end of the string was simply unbearable. Shangguan Feiyun glared at Zhuofan as he demanded, so you're the one that had me waiting dumbly all night. Haha, Sword King Feiyun, you got the wrong guy there. Zhuofan shrugged and mocked as he pointed at the bloody Shangguan Yulin in his hole. You have to take it up to the real culprit. He's the one who passed the info, so ask him. If not for his selfishness wanting to use you to kill another, the original plan wouldn't have suffered changes and Sword King Feiyun wouldn't have been separated, haha. Shangguan Feiyun shuddered and cursed, rotten bastard, only knows how to mess it up like his mother. You ruined my plan and death's too easy for you. Shangguan Yulin's heart sank, shaking from fear and cursing inside. How the hell does Gu Yifan know my affairs? Was he watching me all along? Zhuofan smirked, good disciple, my plan worked all thanks to you, haha. Old sicko. With the recognition of the words came terror and another spurting of blood. How could I be so blind? That old sicko that tormented him for so long, the same one that came and went like the wind, was no other than Zhuofan next door. That's why he could slip in and out like that. He was right next to me. Shangguan Yulin felt like the victim here, his mind wounded by the shocking truth. His body recoiled as well, forced to spit blood on and on. Chapter 9:15, Big Dipper Flinging a Rage. Chapter 9:15, Big Dipper Flinging a Ray. Proofreader, Papatonks. The truth of being tortured and toyed with by the same person he hated and despised the most made this young master Shangguan Yulin more humiliated than anything in the world. He couldn't budge from the serious injuries on his body, but that did not stop him from shivering in regret as tears of shame streaked down his face. Fueled by the bitter resentment his heart was now saturated with, all directed at the sicko Zhuofan pretended to be. Even the poorest schmuck out there had his own self-respect. Even the friliest of bugs had their own limits. He could accept being a slave to some demonic expert since he was weaker. But Zhuofan was his peer with whom he never saw eye to eye. Knowing that this peer was stronger, the shock to his mind made him feel sick. He was the young master of the best clan in Eastern lands. How dare he be shamed by some nasty scum of society? Thus, if he knew from the start the sicko who enslaved him was Zhuofan, he'd never have caved in until death, or made sure to plot from the shadows against him. The fear he always felt towards the sicko was due to not knowing anything about him. It was why Zhuofan used him by hiding his real face. The more Shangguan Yulin was spasming and sobbing in regret, the more Zhuofan found his course of action the right one. A mastermind should have his own style, to build up an air of mystery and strength. Honesty and coming clean helped no one with intimidation and forcing others to capitulate into being used. The others saw Shangguan Yulin's creepy movements and felt off. What's wrong with him? What's the problem? It's not like he's the only one the punk got. We've all been duped. To cry over something like this goes to show your mind is weak. Bailey Jingwei could somewhat relate to Shangguan Yulin's pain. It was a royal and noble humiliation in their blood. None of the other spectators could feel it. Only by being toyed to such an extent by a mere boy would one come to understand this deep shame. It was no different from a beggar spitting on the face of an emperor in broad daylight. Nothing could wash it away, not even killing all the people here. Bailey Jingwei squinted and focused his cold gaze on Zhuo Fan, while the fake report came from Shangguan Yulin's misguided interests. It's all due to Mr. Gu. Oh, thank you, but all I did was threaten him a little, just enough to want to get rid of me and thus complicating things. Though everything is just as I speculated and as I wanted it. Zhuo Fan beamed. Prime Minister, sir, is in fact right when you say it's due to me. Shangguan Yulin in his whole, bald harder. Zhuo Fan has struck another mighty blow to his feeble psyche. He only wanted to kill Zhuo Fan, but he played right into the guy's hand, helping instead. It was the harshest blow an egomaniac could receive. Scared and terrified, all that work I put in it went in another's favor. Oh, my poor ego, it's not just bruised but in pieces. Shangguan Yulin howled, the tears flowing unabated as he cried like a baby. It was so pitiful that even the hatred others felt for him was slowly turning into anger at this guy for wallowing in sorrow at his wretched fate. Even Shangguan Feiyun felt as such towards this spy nephew of his. This punk is no big player. Look at him, how can he climb on to the glorious seat as Lord of Eastern Lands? Mr. Gu sure played a great hand. I shall never forget this and admire your feat. Bailey Jingwei understood everything and actually attached more value to Zhuo Fan. Only this time it was born out of weariness and not cherishing. Anyone that could make Bailey Jingwei dance to his tune was not to be trifled with. Bailey Jingwei looked around to see he had no other helpers and signaled the guards to surround Zhuo Fan. Mr. Gu is brilliant and has directed the play in the best possible way for your benefit. This leads me to believe you have left yourself an exit, right? Haha, Prime Minister Sir sure is clever. Since you know, why waste time talking and telling the men to surround me? Knowing something and doing what's necessary are different things. There is also the matter of contingency. The two looked each other in the eye and burst out laughing. Zhuo Fan was sneering while Bailey Jingwei had a cold laugh. Seeing the two at odds, only seeing each other as worthy adversaries, left Shangguan Feixiong and the mighty venerables shunned and disregarded. Their faces twitched, feeling their self-respect taking a blow alongside Shangguan Yulin. Come on, can't you at least glance here as well? We're also experts of Eastern Land's Shangguan clan. We're starting to feel bad with you ignoring us like that. Though who the hell cared about some 4 old bags of bones? Not them too, and certainly not Shangguan Feiyun. They didn't have the soaring sword now, did they? All eyes were only focused on one person, Zhuo Fan. They were weary and tense for any sudden moves by the Grandmaster Gu, who toyed with them all night. How was he going to get away? How was he going to give so many great experts the slip? Why was he so confident he could? The unknown always had a knack of putting everyone on edge, preying on their dark imagination. Shangguan Qingyin's pretty eyes regarded the know-it-all and disparaging Zhuo Fan with shock. She found him a total stranger, a stranger that made her heart race and her face red. It went beyond anything she ever thought possible. The frail and disregarded average radiant stage alchemist that once saved her turned out to be a control freak and an ungodly hero. Zhuo Fan's attitude was one of dominance, a stark contrast from her father's air of righteousness, but the vibe of one that ruled. Zhuo Fan's haughty style was a killer for girls like her, drawing her deeper into his web. For now, though, her obsessive eyes went unnoticed to Zhuo Fan, especially since hundreds of other eyes were also watching him. Zhuo Fan looked around, then settled on Bailey Jingwei. Prime Minister sir, my script is set the moment it plays. There's no contingency. Dub he. With a sharp yell, Zhuo Fan's hand weaved into a sign. A ripple spread from his feet and the Big Dipper shone bright from high in the sky. A blinding light was cast down from one of the stars right where Zhuo Fan was standing, holding him safe within. Everyone cried out in shock and stepped back in fear and weariness. That's the ancient star array. It should have been lost ages ago. Just how? An aged voice sounded. You know this array. Bailey Jingwei shook and turned to one of the 10 11th grade array grandmasters he brought from the imperial capital. He shouted in anxiety, What does it do? Watching the bright light curtain with stunned eyes, the man's gaze also held obsession. He only reacted when Bailey Jingwei shouted at him, "Prime Minister, there are many star arrays with varying effects. It is only my first time seeing such a marvel. As for what it does or what is for, I do not know." Then why talk so much? The always respectful Bailey Jingwei lost his temper and cursed. Zhuo Fan smiled behind the curtain of light. "Prime Minister, sir, you should watch your temper. He doesn't know, but I do. Since it's the end, I don't see any harm in sharing with you the star array, the Big Dipper flinging array." It. Zhuo Fan grinned, looking mighty smug. "Teleportation. A teleportation array?" Bailey Jingwei jerked and barked orders. "Stop him now. Don't let him get away." "Yes, sir." The men acted, but Zhuo Fan shook his head. "It's too late for that. This star teleportation array is focused on speed. Once it's activated, it's instantaneous. Even Genesis stage experts can't reach its speed. I only have to shift my fingers and—" Zhuo Fan smirked as his hands moved and faded out. Bailey Jingwei's eyebrows rose and clenched his fists in hatred. Chapter 916, Hostage. Chapter 916, Hostage. Proofreader, Papatonks. A power surge spread with the moonlight curtain as its source. Hiding behind it was Zhuo Fan's fading smug and mocking grin at Bailey Jingwei. No amount of effort nor speed on the guard's part, even from Genesis experts, helped stop Zhuo Fan from leaving. Bailey Jingwei bit his lip till it bled. He had been toyed with by some mystery punk that came out of nowhere to the point of extreme humiliation. He lost it all tonight, both the chance of wiping out Shangguan clan's best and the very thing he protected, the soaring sword. How was he going to explain that to the patriarch? To make matters worse for our poor imperial prime minister, his prized title of being sagely statesman had just taken a blow. Not to forget his credibility in patriarch's eyes was now questionable. Over the course of one short night, his bright and promising career had taken a most dark and cruel turn. As he was gnashing his teeth and boiling in rage, Dan Qingxin sported a rather peculiar smile, giving a big nod to Zhuo Fan in his mind. "Boy, cheers on your success and safe escape. I'm sure we'll meet again someday, haha." Whoosh! A figure came out of nowhere and flashed through them. It aimed for Shangguan Qingyan's fair and delicate neck, yanking it forward. The lady cried at the suddenness, still absorbed in Zhuo Fan's performance. The pressure put a strain on her breath and her face turned red as she coughed for any bit of air. "What do you think you're doing, Shangguan Feiyun? A peak Genesis expert has so little shame as to lay his hand on a child?" Shangguan Feixiong noticed his daughter was in trouble and it was no one else's doing but her uncle he hated. "If you won't do it for your niece, at least for status. Fight me if you want to, but leave Yenner alone." Shangguan Feiyun huffed. "Old coot, you know as well as I just how apart we are in strength. I've no interest in fighting you. I am one of the 9 sword kings after all. Her being kin aside, touching her, an ethereal stage cultivator, is beneath me. Alas, the circumstances have changed. Sorry, niece." Shangguan Qingyan turned a cold face towards where Zhuo Fan had vanished. "Gu Yifan, listen up. Leave the soaring sword and I'll let you go. Don't, and this girl gets it." Zhuo Fan's signs paused, his face betraying emotion. Bailey Jingwei lit up and signaled his guards to stop before forcing Gu Yifan to leave for good. It was imperative to get him to stay, then use the girl to get the soaring sword back. From what he'd seen, the two looked close. On top of that, the reports showed she quite cared for Gu Yifan, to the point of coming clean with her own dad's plan of using him. This wasn't a result of a mere friendship, there had to be something going on between the two. Gu Yifan had started his plan with the sole thought of using Shangguan clan for his own goals, but whenever people were involved, anything could happen. Maybe all those walks through town touched the guy's heart. Bailey Jingwei and Shangguan Feiyun thought of using the girl as a bargaining chip on a simple maybe. Bailey Jingwei looked hard at Shangguan Feiyun and nodded. Sword King Feiyun didn't just use his fist, but was cautious and bold when required. The Prime Minister understood how this man became a Sword King. There was no way Patriarch would just accept anyone with a bit of strength. "I've gotten too caught up in everything and lost my composure." Sword King Feiyun was actually much more devious, finding the right trail among thousands to pursue victory. A true man of ambition. Bailey Jingwei praised him, his eyes focused on Zhuo Fan and eager for a response. Shangguan Feixiong's side was tense, filled with bloodthirst. "Yenner's life is in your hands. I don't care what you are, Gu Yifan, but Yenner has been good to you all these days. Even a cold stone heart will sport a crack. Shangguan Qingyan was also desperate to know his reply, holding hope deep in her eyes. But unlike the rest, she knew it was highly unlikely Zhuofan would just hand over the soaring sword for her. All she hoped was to know Zhuofan's feelings, even if it was refusal out of helplessness. She was content with Zhuofan showing just an inkling of want and saving her. Alas, before all those tense and eager looks, Zhuofan smirked. Sword King Feiyun, are you touched in the head or something? You expect to blackmail me with Shangguan Feixiong's daughter? Are you sure about that? Everyone sighed, realizing she was not enough to force the guy's hand. Shangguan Feixiong shook in rage. A cold stone bastard like him should just die. Shangguan Qingyan looked forlorn at the blatant rejection. This is the real Mr. Gu, cruel and callous. Gu Yifan, people aren't plants, they are governed by feelings. Shangguan Feiyun's eyes flashed as he probed, but Zhuofan laughed in his face. Good one, but has the Sword King ever heard that love takes time? I've barely known the girl for a month and I didn't even like her from the start, only thinking of using Shangguan clansmen for myself. How can such a shady goal lead to love? Even if some did bud, it'll only be faint and flat. Zhuofan gave a nasty grin to Shangguan Qingyan. Girlie, I told you staying won't do you any good. Didn't I urge you to leave? Shangguan Qingyan nodded. There you have it, I've already showed compassion but you chose death. My hands are clean. Zhuofan turned to Shangguan Feiyun, laughing. Young people have no sense of propriety, stubbornly willing to pay any price. That's why they should see more, though some get to see many times while others just once, just like Miss Shangguan here. Though experiencing ending your own niece ought be a one-time thing too. Make sure to relish it, Sword King Feiyun, haha. Zhuofan was totally uncaring, his laughter filled with derision as he resumed making signs and his body faded some more. Shangguan Feiyun grimaced at Zhuofan's brutal response. Her life in his hands held no importance to him. He had no remorse at all about just running away. And then he patronized him with killing his own kin. This was not just about staining his name, his mind would not get over it. Thus his grip on the fair neck eased. Zhuofan eased a breath. Reverse psychology saved her. Bailey Jingwei saw through it all and shouted, Kill her, Sword King Feiyun. What? He's only taunting you. He wouldn't have said all that if he didn't care at all. He is taunting you into letting go. Bailey Jingwei felt good finally getting a grasp of Zhuofan's intent and shouted at the light curtain. Gu Yifan, leave and life leaves her. Just try it. Shangguan Feiyun's grip on Shangguan Qingyan's neck tightened, laughing. I get it now. Gu Yifan, so you do want to save her. Then leave the sword and we won't make it hard on you. You'll both leave safely. What? Shangguan Qingyan was choking again, but Bailey Jingwei's explanation made her heart skip a beat as it validated her hopes. It meant Zhuofan did care and wanted to save her. Just that he didn't show it. Haha, Mr. Gu is so callous that he is ruthless even when saving another. But this extreme coldness hides emotions. Mr. Gu, just who are you? As her face paled from the lack of air and tears fell down, she was actually smiling, a smile free of regret. A shame I won't ever get the chance to find out. Sensing her life ebbing, Shangguan Feixiong was panicking. He couldn't even act out for fear of leading to her death. They were at an impasse. Zhuofan's eyes grew colder, his hands ready to make the last sign and leave. He didn't want to be like Shangguan Feixiong and let emotions rule his actions. But he could see the problem. Bailey Jingwei's side had Shangguan Qingyan as hostage because he had the soaring sword. Once he was gone, Shangguan Qingyan would lose her value. While handing the sword would only remove any restraint they had. They would go after his life and he would die along with the Shangguan clan. Bailey Jingwei was using Shangguan Qingyan to get the sword and control the Shangguan experts. Zhuofan smirked and was about to leave. It was then a childish voice sounded, Auntie? Chapter 917, Scarlet Fist. Chapter 917, Scarlet Fist. Proofreader, Papatonks. Shuddering, Zhuofan signs stopped and gasped in a low tone, Young Sanzi, what is he doing here and not at our meeting place? Even as the power was gathering and the gaudy moonlight shone, Zhuofan was frozen behind it, watching in shock. Now his foolproof plan was in ruins. The rest heard the childish voice as well and looked in its direction with surprise. Where did the kid come from? Auntie. The weeping sounds were followed by a red and small figure, sniffing and running for Shangguan Qingyan. As he staggered and stumbled in his frantic rush, the locket on his neck dazzled in the moonlight. Zhuo Fan was floored at young Sanzi's sudden appearance. Feeling restless the more he was acting like a real and frail child. He knew young Sanzi was doing it for a reason, but with all the Genesis stage experts around, even a Qilin's son would find himself overwhelmed fast. Zhuo Fan's heart froze, his attention fixed on his cute figure as sweat trickled down his brow. Young Sanzi, don't be rash, don't be rash. His prayer didn't reach young Sanzi as the child ran under everyone's gaze to Shangguan Feiyun and started waving his wee fists around. Meanie, let my auntie go. Run, young Sanzi. Shangguan Qingyan panicked and forced herself to shout despite the grip on her neck. She cared too much about him. Gu Santong wasn't just half faking it, making sure his punches were that of a child. Shangguan Feiyun was blissfully oblivious of the monster lurking beneath that adorable facade. His eyes lit up and hoisted him. Ha, I heard you had a son, Gu Yifan. This must be the twerp. Now I have your son as well. You might not care about the girl, but that can't go the same for your son. Zhuo Fan winced, his fist clenching as he looked worried at young Sanzi. You shouldn't have come, young Sanzi. Meanie, let my auntie go. Gu Santong was still feisty even as Shangguan Feiyun held him in the air, waving his hands and feet at him, but they didn't even make an impact. It was all so funny to Shangguan Feiyun. Gu Yifan, I'll count to 3. So you keep that sword and I won't kill the girl but instead your son. You think about that? Shangguan Feiyun, you rotten bastard, you call yourself a Genesis stage expert by hitting a 7-year-old child. Shangguan Qingyan raved despite her heavy breathing in his clutches. Shangguan Feiyun ignored her rants, only staring at Zhuo Fan with a dark look. 3. Zhuo Fan's face shook, stuck in indecision. 2. Shangguan Feiyun called out again, the bloodthirst in his eyes thicker. Zhuo Fan clenched his fists, sweating as he watched young Sanzi in worry. Bailey Jingwei mocked seeing him unmoving. Grandmaster Gu, are you that empty inside? You said you didn't know the girl for long to care, but now it's your own son. Are you going to say he hasn't been around for long either? Humph, what a father you are, caring more about a dead object than your own flesh and blood. Unlike you, your son is so touching, being around the girl as long as you have yet to see how attached he's grown. Are you sure you're even related? How come you're so different, haha? Bailey Jingwei mocked and laughed at his expense, even though it was all true. Zhuo Fan and young Sanzi were not related. It actually went beyond blood relation. Zhuo Fan's hesitation stemmed from not knowing how to play along young Sanzi's act and save him. Saving was only possible if he timed it right, especially with young Sanzi's strength. So he waited for the right moment for the father and son to act. 1. Shangguan Feiyun finished but Zhuo Fan didn't budge, which made him shout, what a heartless father, not even caring about his own son's fate. Then allow me to help you by removing this bastard. Bang. A loud sound broke his rant, followed by a sharp pain to his chest. He spat blood and was sent flying, letting the hostages slip free. The mighty power surge spread out and kicked up a cloud of dust as it leveled everything in 5 kilometers. Though with everyone being Genesis stage experts, there was no fear of any life being harmed when the surge hit. As the dust settled, Shangguan Feiyun was revealed to be bleeding from the mouth and looking in shock. How? The child? The others were just as shocked as he was. How can a child harm Sword King Feiyun? That's impossible. Gu Santong panted, his young body covered in a red glow, still in a punching stance. He looked to be looking at Shangguan Feiyun with equal shock. Since it was his first time against a Genesis stage expert and a top one at that in the form of a Sword King, he went all out. Despite that and the fact it was a flawless sneak attack, his almighty Qilin power proved to fall short as it only gave Shangguan Feiyun a flesh wound. This never happened before, ever. It then dawned on him Zhuo Fan's concern about Flying Cloud City being packed with Genesis experts and just how dangerous it was. There was no room for them to punch through like always. Young Sanzi. As everyone was riveted in shock by the wee child, a shout reached their ears. A ripple echoed around young Sanzi's area as Zhuo Fan behind his curtain of light showed a golden right eye. Shift. Young Sanzi knew his enemy was beyond tough and let go of any intent of following up, choosing to grab the still stunned Shangguan Qingyan with a rare hard face. Auntie, relax and let it come. That'll save us. Shangguan Qingyan was still baffled, but seeing such a serious look on the 7-year-old's face made her bob her head in reflex. Bastard, you're going to pay for that. The air shimmered as Shangguan Feiyun unleashed the soaring sword art in his rage. The world shifted as a huge sword came down on the two, unleashing its dreadful power and robbing everyone's breath away. It was unclear how a Qilan's tough body would fare against such a grievous strike, but one thing was sure, there would be nothing left of Shangguan Qingyan afterward. Shangguan Feixiong cried out in pain, "Shangguan Feiyun, how can a Genesis cultivator kill a child and an ethereal stage girl? What will the lands think of you? You call that a child? That's no child but a monster. Have you ever seen a child with such brutal strength? He made me bleed with a punch. There's no way that's normal even for a sneak attack." Shangguan Feiyun snapped back and silenced Shangguan Feixiong with his retort. Now he waited in anxiety as to what would follow. Zhuofan was the most worried of them all. He had to strain himself and give his all in his divine eye of the void working faster than Shangguan Feiyun's sword. He had to. Young Sanzi. Zhuofan's eyes grew bloodshot as he screamed in his mind. As he forced himself to jumpstart the skill, his eye was bleeding, but none of this mattered as his gaze was fixed on Gu Santong and the space around him began to move. The huge sword was mere hairs away, ready to take their lives as well. Who was faster among Shangguan Qingyan and Zhuofan determined young Sanzi and Shangguan Qingyan's fate. Chapter 918, Young Sanzi. Chapter 918, Young Sanzi. Proofreader, Papatonks. Whoosh. The tearing in space was clear in everyone's ears. As the sword was just a meter away from taking their lives, the divine eye of the void warped the space beneath it, working its best to save them instead. Shangguan Feiyun and Zhuofan acted from different sides on the same target, one to kill and one to save, yet both giving their all. It was in this strained contest that Zhuofan began to show signs of coming up short. Killing always came easier than saving. Even as shift and soaring sword art were exerted on the two at the same time, the sword came from Shangguan Feiyun and it didn't need to even touch them to cause tremendous pain and harm. Gu Santong would live through it with his sacred beast power, but Shangguan Qingyan was too weak here, not even in the Shangguan Qingyan, and was up against a peak Genesis expert's ultimate skill. Even a glancing blow was enough to render her broken in body and mind. Gu Santong understood this and noticed how Zhuofan was falling behind. He focused and pulled Shangguan Qingyan behind him. With a stomp, his body shot for the obliterating sword attack with no remorse. Young Sanzi. Zhuofan and Shangguan Qingyan cried out, but Gu Santong's mind was set, punching at the huge sword with his fist wrapped in scarlet. I am the invincible scamp Gu Santong. I have never known defeat and no puny sword energy can harm the likes of me. To the eyes of any onlooker, he was no whelp, no child wet behind his ears, but a brave hero unflinching in the face of death and welcoming with open arms. A pity he was up against one of the 9 sword kings, Shangguan Feiyun. He might have held his own against any other Genesis stage expert, but not against Shangguan Feiyun. The sword went through Gu Santong's arm with a muffled sound, going after Shangguan Qingyan. His challenging declaration came to a stop, forced to spat crimson blood. His rosy complexion turned deathly white as his frail body swayed in the wind and fell backward. But his fist had managed to slow the sword for less than a second, something anyone would disregard, but it held utmost importance in a crisis such as this. The sword finally grew slower than Zhuofan's divine eye of the void. Whoosh! Shangguan Qingyan vanished in an instant, now appearing next to Zhuofan, behind the glowing curtain of light. The next moment, the sword crossed the now empty space and struck the crowd with a mighty boom. The howls and cries pierced the sky as anything in 50 kilometers was turned to rubble. The Genesis stage experts standing there were the ones to suffer for it, with more than 30 dead. It was testament to Shangguan Feiyun's power. Everyone was shocked inside at the outcome, not at Shangguan Feiyun's strength, but at Zhuofan's skill, able to save someone from right under Sword King Feiyun's nose. Shangguan Feixiong noticed his daughter was safe and eased a breath he forgot he was holding. He felt conflicted now about Zhuofan, torn between gratitude and hatred, but admired him nonetheless. The boy can do the impossible, unflinching as the world is collapsing on him. Just who is he? Zhuofan cared not about others' reactions, his right eye flashing once more. He saved Shangguan Qingyan, but now he was staring at Gu Santong as he floated there. However, in a fight between experts, using one skill might not work a second time. Someone darted and grabbed Gu Santong's neck. The man flicked his hand and cancelled the shift. The golden glow in Zhuofan's right eye faded and looked up with hatred and clenched fists. Shangguan Feiyun. Gu Yifan, so you're not just an unknown 11th grade alchemist but also in possession of some weird skills. Shangguan Feiyun dangled Gu Santong in front, splattering the blood flowing for young Sanzi everywhere. One is a freak and the other is a monster. You two sure opened my eyes wide today. The old man is crafty and shifty while the young son wields savage power. That punch really hurt and I lost myself there and almost killed them. How lucky your son is so capable in stopping my sword and still come out alive. But try anything else now and I'll snap his neck like a toothpick. Zhuo Fan's heart sank. Shengguan Qingyan cried, young Sanzi. She turned to Zhuo Fan, Gu Yifan, you have to help him. Just give up the dead sword. He's your son. Yeah, give it up. Nothing can come close to the importance of your son's life, right? Haha, Shengguan Qingyan mocked while holding young Sanzi. As blood flowed from the ruined arm, young Sanzi's condition was growing worse by the second. Others were feeling for him. Such a monstrous strength, but all in the body of a little child. His act of sacrifice earlier only made him more admirable. If it were anyone else holding Gu Santong, some of them might even lend a hand. What kind of man are you, bastard, to pick on a child? Zhuo Fan hesitated as Gu Santong's grew weaker. But then the child strained to look at his father, giving him a look and a smile. He then closed his eyes at peace with his fate. Zhuo Fan's brow shook, his fists clenched. But ultimately he let it all go. He grabbed Shengguan Qingyan's shoulder and made the last sign. We're leaving. What? In Shengguan Qingyan's moment of anxiety, worry and shock, the starlight shone brighter and the two faded away, followed by the vanishing of the curtain of light. Everyone gasped, even Bailey Jingwei. Is Gu Yifan so cruel? Did he give up on his son for a damn sword? Shengguan Feiyun's face twitched, his eyes dimmed and shook from anger. His hand gripping Gu Santong tensed in reflex. The child was only still alive thanks to his sacred beast heritage. This is utterly preposterous. Shengguan Feiyun howled at the sky, regarding the child with bloodlust. Damn you, Gu Yifan. Since you don't want him, then I'll get rid of him for you. Shengguan Feiyun waved his Yuan Qi charged finger at Gu Santong. He didn't finish as another curtain of light came down from the heavens above. The Big Dipper shone again, only this time, it landed in Flying Cloud City in Gu household. What followed was a beam of light shining across the sky that made Shengguan Feiyun's sword pause from falling down. Wait! Bailey Jingwei shouted in haste, looking at the distant light and turned to the array masters. What is that? One array master stepped forward and bowed. Prime Minister, the world has its own laws and so does arrays. In general, the more power is amassed, the greater the effect. This is true for all arrays, teleportation arrays included. He has set up such a star array so fast and small scale in the Flying Cloud manner and using sacred stones, proving his skill and quick thinking. But such array won't work over large distances. It would have needed a larger and more time-consuming array to do so. Something impossible in the central area where someone would have easily noticed. This means he has only used it to escape the manor. Pa! Bailey Jingwei instantly reacted with an angry slap and cursing. Damn it, fool, say it from the start. Since he hasn't gotten far, we have to give chase. Sword King Feiyun, take the kid and let's go. Chapter 919, Light/Glow. Chapter 919, Light/Glow. Proofreader, Papatonks. Bailey Jingwei turned to the ever-silent Danqing Shen. Understanding his gaze, Danqing Shen came to his side and grabbed him before shooting for the light. As a mere ethereal stage cultivator, he'd never catch up to the others with his meager speed unless he had a Genesis stage expert helping him. Shengguan Feiyun figured out the little brat still had his uses as a hostage. Without further ado, he also flew after them with Gu Santong in his clutches. As for the other Genesis stage experts, they followed without question. Of the packed manner of experts so far, now it turned to have only 5 who were just staring dumbly. Shengguan Feixiong, the 3 venerables and 1 tittering between life and death, Shengguan Yulin. All of them felt weirdly at a loss seeing the others just ignore them outright over someone else. You're telling me that us big shots from Eastern lands have no worth? They just treat us like decorations, not even locking their house. The clear humiliation got to these 4 oldies. They had been hiding to stay alive all this time, and now that they were given the cold shoulder, their life was over. Talk about being self-critical. Then again, Gu Yifan was so young and toyed with both parties like nothing. Truly commendable, brave, amazing and extraordinarily talented. In any other place, even they would have disregarded the Shangguan clan over the kid, since he was just too good. First he snatched Soaring Sword, which was eye-catching enough, Then there was his glorious talent that shone like no other here. What if he were such a marvelous youth? What then? That was of course paying close attention to such a dangerous element. And while these Shangguan oldies were tough, part of a bigger faction, it's been millennia since such a gem appeared within their ranks. Gu Yifan was like a younger invincible sword now, even if striking it out on his own, that infinite potential sent shivers down anyone's spine. It was for the same reason Bailey Jingwei and Shangguan Feiyun went after the kid. The soaring sword might even be secondary. Shangguan Feixiong sighed at the light pillar. The new replaces the old as every generation surpasses the last one. I just can't believe how the glory of our Shangguan clan has faded compared to some unknown kid. It's not faded but overshadowed. One venerable nodded. The stars shine brighter upon the night sky only because the clouds hide the moon's glow. The moon can cast her light upon the world all because the sun has fallen beyond the mountains. When the moon comes out, the stars fade. When the sun rises, the moon vanishes. He is the sun and the moon, and as long as he lives past today, his light would be glorious. They all gave a nod at his assessment. The new dawn is heralded by its new heroes. Our time has ended. Should we give chase? I'm worried about Yenner, Shangguan Feixiong pondered as he looked at the distant light. One venerable spoke, there's no need. We've been in such a dangerous situation just now and we couldn't even keep Yenner safe, but the kid did. He easily walks the path he made for himself to escape, so of course he will. Yenner will be fine with him. While we can never catch up to him and get the soaring sword, going after him is pointless. While we no longer take priority with him still around, once he's gone, all that attention will be focused on us. Bailey Jingwei will come with us hard once more and we hardly have the men to fight. Even if we do escape, there'll barely be anyone left. Only a fool would do this, ha. Shangguan Feixiong nodded and sighed. Kid, you've been wicked and shrewd, using us however you wished, but I haven't exactly been good to you either. Yenner isn't like that, she truly cared for the two of you. I just hope you'll take care of her and keep her safe and this old man will be content. Shangguan Feixiong sighed and turned a dark look at the slumped Shangguan Yulin in his hole. Then venerables, what about this bastard? A traitor is to be taken back and fully questioned. One venerable's eyes shone and snapped. Shangguan Feixiong nodded and went to lift a bitter, pleading and panicking Shangguan Yulin. The four experts flew out of town. They couldn't mess with the matters as they stood, but a traitor was a different matter. The four sported nasty smirks. Shangguan Yulin was feeling worse and worse. What did I do to deserve this? No one wants me. I gave my all as a spy, I worked hard for the clan, but no one cares. Is the world going to let this wrong go unanswered? Oh, snow in June. Smiley face reference to the injustice to Do-E, a play by Guan Hanqing of a girl's unjust ending and vindication. How fast had he forgotten just who he was really working for, even turning on everyone else? The triple agent had nothing helping him in his endeavors, no morals and not even loyalty for his own family. Alas, all of these were secondary, paling in comparison to messing with the one man no one ever should, ending up as a stray no one would even take pity on. Meanwhile, with the flash of the light pillar, Zhuo Fan and Shangguan Qingyan appeared in the backyard of the Gu household. With no time for her to make sense of everything, Shangguan Feiyun's team had already shown up. A Genesis stage expert's speed was nothing to scoff at. He held Gu Santong and barked at Zhuo Fan inside the light pillar. Gu Yifan, you didn't want him, but I was kind enough to bring your son to you. Hand over the sword now or you can say goodbye to this brat. Young San Zihui, Shangguan Qingyan started despite how Zhuo Fan sported the same cold face, his hands making signs, Marak. Whoosh. In another flash, the two were gone along with their light pillar. Shangguan Feiyun's face twitched. Shit. This bastard is hardcore, ignoring everything and just running off. He didn't care at all? Bailey Jingwei and Danqing Shen just caught up. Shangguan Feiyun shrugged helplessly, his anger burning hotter than the sun. He showed not the slightest hesitation. I've seen my fair share of stone-cold people, but he's to the point of being inhuman. Bailey Jingwei frowned heavily. He'd been using his sharp wits and quick tongue to come up on top every time, but Zhuo Fan wouldn't even stop to listen. He couldn't work his magic, not when the other wouldn't even let him in. Whoosh. Another beam of light was cast upon the world, down yonder. Bailey Jingwei signaled at once and everyone gave chase. Shangguan Feiyun huffed and took Gu Santong to find his dad. Gu Yifan, your son dash. Whoosh. Shangguan Feiyun's roar reached Zhuo Fan first, but only the first words as he went away once more. The chase went on and on. The glorious flying cloud city of the empire was given quite the funny show. The flying cloud manor was out in force trying to catch some light from the heavens, yet it kept slipping through their fingers. Shangguan Feiyun, with a kid in his arms, was looking like a nagging old biddy chasing her husband to give him an earful. The only thing missing was shrieking and whining in the streets like a banshee. "You cold-hearted man, don't just leave your wife and son in the harsh, cruel world." It only helped to fuel Shangguan Feiyun's anger, his turning face red. "For God's freaking sake. Isn't this your damn child? I'm here giving him to you and you don't want him? Do it again and I'll just bury him." Of course he was only thinking about it and not putting it into action. They weren't about to get rid of the one thing that might just tie Gu Yifan down. On Zhuofan's side, seeing how young Sanzi's life was assured, he had no qualms about really leaving this place. It might look heartless and cruel and harsh, but it was the smartest thing to do. With father and son together, their chances were non-existent. While if one ran with the soaring sword, the other was sure to survive. Shangguan Feiyun dangled young Sanzi in front of him for the soaring sword, so Zhuofan of course was going to use it as a way to keep him alive. He was stuck on how to save young Sanzi, so the only choice was to make the enemy keep him alive longer. As for a rescue, Zhuofan's mind was still hard at work among the constant flashing around town. Young Sanzi's sacrifice to save Shangguan Qingyan was unexpected, outside his plan. To try again he would need to lay serious groundwork first. Soaring sword was nothing much to him, not when young Sanzi was part of the equation. Zhuofan's eyes flashed, his face filled with conviction. Chapter 920, No Winner Tonight. Chapter 920, No Winner Tonight. Proofreader, Papatonks. Fekta Migrez Aliath Mizar. With every star shining down on Earth, Zhuofan's hands shifted and changed locations. Each time he was brought hundreds of miles away from Shangguan Feiyun, now over 500 miles out of Flying Cloud City. Shangguan Feiyun's team were like flies drawn to the glorious light, always in pursuit yet always coming short. This short delay was compounded with each transfer, making the gap over 50 kilometers wide. But the men could only grit their teeth and keep at it. They were like a bunch of fools made to chase something that was not there for another's amusement. So after the fourth light came, Shangguan Feiyun had had enough, his rage exploding. "To hell with it. Is this bastard playing fetch with us? Let him try it again. I won't budge an inch. At worst I'll just end his son and settle it with Gu Yifan later. He can't run forever, not while he's in Central Area." Sword King Feiyun, enough nonsense. All that matters is the soaring sword. So long as the sword is out of reach, we can't harm a hair on his son. What if he snaps and just throws it in some dark hole forever? What then? Bailey Jingwei gave him a warning look, then he turned to the 10 array masters keeping up with them. "Grandmasters, you're among the best array experts in the empire. Have you managed to glean anything into the array after all this time?" The 10 experts shared looks and hesitated. Finally one spoke. "Prime Minister, at first we understood little about this star array, but we now have begun to notice things. Normal teleportation arrays uses ley lines to travel, shortening the distance between points. All that needed was to break these paths and the transfer will halt. With star teleportation arrays they follow the heaven way, using star power to connect heaven and earth, thus unbreakable. It's far beyond any ley line teleportation array there is. I don't give a damn about his skill in arrays or how better he is than you. I just want to know, how do we get to the part where we catch him?" Bailey Jingwei's face twitched in annoyance. "If he keeps flashing around, won't it go on forever? While he's rested, we'll be weary running all over to catch him." Not likely. Prime Minister can rest assured." The array master pointed at the sky, explaining, "The world's forces are in balance, governed by its own laws. These can never be breached by any mortals. The star array is sublime, but it can't escape following the world's nature. It will end. Judging by what we've seen so far, he has borrowed the power of 6 of the 7 stars in the Big Dipper in order, catering to the arrays he set on the ground below. By our reckoning, the next one should be the last. The power of the stars will have been used up through Alcade. This star, having correlated with the previous location, will be shedding its light on this Earth right over there." The array master pointed to some random bush hundreds of miles away with a stuck-up nose. See that? That's called specializing. With just a little time watching a new array, I can already surmise its process. This is the awesome power of our 11th grade array Mas Dash. Pah. He didn't get to gloat for long as a sharp slap sent him spinning, his mind included. Coming around at some point, he was face to face with an irate Bailey Jingwei. Flinching, the array masters looked dumbfounded, even wronged. What did we do now? Why is Prime Minister angry with us? How are we in the wrong? Bailey Jingwei spat through gnashed teeth. You bunch of old decrepit fools, why the hell didn't you say it earlier? Giving me such a drawn-out and useless explanation instead of just pointing to the guy's destination. Humph, ignorant waste. Sword King Feiyun, let's go, we have to keep him there the moment he lands. Right? Shengguan Feiyun followed after Bailey Jingwei with Gu Santong in his grip. There they would lay in ambush for the moment Zhuo Fan came. They were finally one step ahead. Prime Minister Bailey, all the array grandmasters you brought seems to have atrophied brains with how slow they are. What can you do when they spent their lives in scrolls about arrays yet missing the workings of the world? They can't read the mood at all. I do find them valuable for that, but also vexed. Be it alchemists or array masters, they all wish to reach the apex in their fields, and for that they study and study some more in isolation from the rest of the world. They're like pedantic scholars. True, all known great alchemists and array masters have simple minds. Shengguan Feiyun nodded, then his eyebrow twitched, yet the kid's the exception. He's got great alchemy skills, yet he's slipperier than a snake. How did he get so good in alchemy when all he's done was focus on mind games? Bailey Jingwei's brow shook as he nodded. He really is the weirdest aberrant I've seen. Baffling everyone yet instilling in them great danger. Shengguan Feiyun's eyes flashed. As the two talked, Dan Qingshun was content to just carry Bailey Jingwei in silence. Mediocrity breeds no hatred and envy, while brilliance draws danger. Boy. Whoosh. The figures dashed through the air and Bailey Jingwei's group reached the bush just as the last light came down from the heavens above, just like that array master predicted. Zhuo Fan and Shengguan Qingyan faded in behind the light. Haha, the old coot was right. The kid is coming here. Shengguan Feiyun laughed with Gu Santong in hand, looking smug. Let's see how you run now. Grandmaster Gu, I've come to deliver your son, haha. Shengguan Qingyan gasped at Shengguan Feiyun's vile expression. How are they so fast now? We just stopped and they already caught up. They must have noticed the erase process. Quite normal when you have 10 array masters in tow. Zhuo Fan watched as the enemy was looking at him like a piece of meat to gorge on. Other than that, his face was flat, his hands steady as the signs flowed, not that it makes a difference. Okay. The pillar of light exploded in a blinding light that turned night into day in an instant. The violent surge spread everywhere, including Shengguan Feiyun's group. They were forced to a halt and gasping for breath as they covered their eyes from the light. Bailey Jingwei covered his face but let only a slit to see the smirking Zhuo Fan behind the curtain of light. He shouted at the array masters, "Just what is this? The array's power is too strong for even a Genesis stage expert to get close. Prime Minister, we don't know at the moment. We need to observe for longer." Screw you. The array masters were covering their eyes as well, and their response only made Bailey Jingwei angry. These old geezers always mess up when I need them most. Zhuo Fan laughed. Prime Minister sir, of course they don't know. But I can give them a tip. The name of the array is Big Dipper Flinging Array. The crux of it isn't the 7 stars but the dipper, get it? Whoosh. Giving a most annoying smile, the two were gone along with their pillar of light, leaving behind his last solemn words, "Thank you, Prime Minister, for looking after my wretched son. If you still feel the need to have the soaring sword, I ask that you raise him big and strong for when I'll be coming to take him back." Whoosh. The 7 stars up above sported faint lines between them, connecting each one. With one last flash, Big Dipper shone brighter and shot a ray of light like a shooting star, splitting the sky in two. At the end of the ray was none other than North Star. Right after, one last pillar of light smashed onto Earth, shaking it hard. This time, however, there was no chase. It was just too far away, needing days for even Genesis stage experts to catch up. Zhuo Fan had just gotten away from right under their noses. Looking at the sparkling light, everyone had a dull gaze. The entire force of the manor had been running around in circles for the better part of the night, yet they had nothing to show for it. All they had been doing was ending up as the butt of another's joke. The worst part was he was only in the radiant stage. Humiliation did not even begin to describe the utter shame and crushing defeat. It was not reduced to Flying Cloud Manor's disgrace, but it included Bailey Jingwei's Sword Star Empires and the 9 Sword Kings. Bailey Jingwei held his head and sighed. The great sage of the empire had been led by the nose all night long. Chapter 921, Back at the Starts. Chapter 921, Back at the Start. Proofreader, Papatonks. Haha, we have it. All watched the fading light with crushed looks. Flying Cloud Manor's hundreds of Genesis stage experts, with a Sword King and the Sage of the Empire, found themselves utterly helpless in stopping one small thief. The news was hard to swallow to anyone and the mood was bleak. But not for all, evident by that bright laughter. With twitching faces and angry glares, they knew the laughter wasn't mocking them, but it still felt like scorn in their ears. So they turned towards the culprit, one of the 10 array masters. Totally oblivious of the hatred he gathered, the array master looked positively radiant at his discovery, skipping like a child to Bailey Jingwei. "Prime Minister, we got it. The intricacy of the star array is obvious now." Bailey Jingwei frowned and didn't speak, but seeing their innocent smiles made him shake his head. "Prime Minister, the Big Dipper flinging array isn't just a short teleportation array but also a gathering array. He had been moving 7 times, 6 times between Dubhe and Alcade while the last transfer unleashed all the power the array gathered. It is just a minor teleportation array but acts like a major one. Using the connection between the North Star and the Big Dipper, he formed a large transfer. That's why he said the focus wasn't on the stars but on the Big Dipper, which is none other than a hint at North Star. By flinging he meant by using all the star power in the Big Dipper through the North Star." Bailey Jingwei's disappointed face didn't even register to the ecstatic array master, growing more and more exuberant. The sudden venue of research he discovered was too much excitement for him to bear. "The star array is truly wondrous. I did say you must have the skills to do it and power. Without it, it wouldn't get you far. I just didn't imagine he'd use 7 stars power into one. That's why there was such a great surge right at the end. But too much power would damage a minor array such as this, which is why it only works once. See for yourself, the array formation is ruined." The array master went to the bush and after a bit of searching he came out with sacred stone fragments, shouting, "See? It's exactly as we deducted. The power overwhelmed the array and ruined it, ha." The other 9 array masters broke out in laughter alongside him. This proved their conjecture was without a doubt correct. Bailey Jingwei was drained of the energy to even cuss at them. He just sighed and flew back to the manor. Dan Shen went after him. The array masters were stumped. "Is Prime Minister mad at us? He was so eager to know just a minute ago." "It's too late." Shengguan Feiyun sighed. "He's gone now, so what's the point of explaining? Humph, some array grandmasters you are." Shengguan Feiyun left as well with the guards. Some even shot them some looks of disdain. Bookworms only like to show off. The 10 were left baffled and clueless. "Too late? Sure, it is late but not too late. The guy might have escaped but getting this long-lost star array is invaluable. Do you have any idea what it's worth?" "Humph, what does a dumb Philistine even know?" The array master mocked them. "They're gone, so let's research the array the man set up. Careful not to damage it further. This is a star array we're talking about. Those uncultured swines have no idea what they're dealing with here. Unlike them, our research might even lead us to develop many new arrays." "Hear, hear." "Well said." His friends wholly agreed, getting to work at once. They treated each remnant as an archaeology site, turning every nook and cranny and speck of dust to get the most out of it. This was the difference between a specialist and a politician. The first focused on his own world, going for new discoveries and innovations, while the second only cared about reputation in his pockets. These two groups had no tangent whatsoever while also shunning each other. The politician laughed at the specialist for being pedantic, while the specialist disdained a politician's sophistry. When a politician became a specialist, he'd show no result. If a specialist changed sides, his life would be ruined, always pulled in all directions and blocked from committing himself to his research. There would be no progress as well. Bailey Jingwei had a healthy respect for specialists, since all he cared about was the benefits these men brought along. As for their academic research and goals, he knew nothing nor was he willing to try. They were each stuck with a different perspective, abhorring the other's style in every way. Though Bailey Jingwei understood one truth, that only the obsession and pedantic made one a specialist. Disapproval and poor communication aside, he wholly approved of them. For he had only to gain from these kinds of specialists. With all the anger and frustration in their interactions, it was still not enough to snap and just kill them. This was just one of the crucial qualities for a man in power. Back in the manor at the Jade Falls, Bailey Jingwei gasped at the icicles on the ground. He'd been going against people his whole life, yet this time he failed so miserably. He had gained nothing in this fight. Gu Yifan, you're a true genius, but one that I found most revolting. Bailey Jingwei took a deep breath. We were born with conflicting personalities, bemoaning a new contender. As we're both deep thinkers, clashes are unavoidable. Guest scholars always tend to criticize another, haha. Whoosh. Shengguan Feiyun came over with Gu Santong. Prime Minister, what about the brat? Lives for now. Until Gu Yifan takes the bait, then he dies with him. Bailey Jingwei gnashed his teeth. Shengguan Feiyun mocked, that's rare for the talent-cherishing Prime Minister to have such bloodlust against another talent. He must really have gotten under your skin, haha. Today has nothing to do with it. Even knowing his real talents, I'd have never let him take another breath all the same. Especially if I could use him. Bailey Jingwei's eyes flashed and left while leaving behind a chilling tone. I loathe anyone like me. Shengguan Feiyun smirked. Scholars never call themselves the best while fighters always fake modesty saying they're second. Fighters shed blood and sweat in their savage fights while scholars pit their minds in convoluted schemes. So even the great Prime Minister Bailey cannot live this down. He must really feel threatened, ha. Shengguan Feiyun turned to the now ruined water garden and gnashed his teeth. Gu Yifan, you ruined my paradise and I'll ruin you. Shengguan Feiyun huffed and walked away, the wounded Gu Santong dangling in his hand and leaving a trail of blood behind. Danqing Shen stroked his beard while shaking his head. Boy, you now have a pair of rabid dogs after you. This will only get hard for you from now on. Meanwhile, as the beam of light fell, Zhuo Fan and Shengguan Qingyan appeared among the glittering moats in a thick forest leagues away from Flying Cloud City. Shengguan Qingyan was still shell-shocked by what had transpired. She had been going 100 miles at a time in each jump, then out of nowhere they were so far she couldn't see a shadow of Flying Cloud City. Shengguan Feiyun was not getting to them now. Relishing the thought, Shengguan Qingyan turned to Zhuo Fan. Mr. Gu, how did you? Wait here. I need to blow off steam. Zhuo Fan spoke coldly and went deep in a dark cave. Shengguan Qingyan looked worried, apprehensive at his words as she waited tense. Howls of beasts soon reverberated from the cave, filled with anger and frustration. Shengguan Qingyan jerked, lowering her head as she understood his grief. He needed to let go. All that perfect planning to get him and young Sanzi away from Flying Cloud City failed. Because of me, his son was taken. She blamed herself for everything, shedding tears of remorse and solitude. The howls went on for a long time into the black night, all the way till dawn. Shengguan Qingyan was conflicted about what was happening, how he was, but could not gather the courage to venture inside the cave. When Zhuo Fan finally did come out, he had a flat look, deader than before. What got Shengguan Qingyan curious was that Zhuo Fan's aura felt dimmer in a way and that his cultivation fell to the 4th layer of radiant stage from 5 to Chapter 922, Goodbye. Chapter 922, Goodbye. Proofreader, Papatonks. How? Shengguan Qingyan's lip quivered as she stared at Zhuo Fan's flat expression in shock and doubt. Zhuo Fan sighed, having figured out her question. What's the problem? I just advanced in these 2 days is all. Advance? Then how? I use a different cultivation method than the rest. It focuses on the mind, into going back to one's nature, the true self-art. Zhuo Fan spoke. What looks like regression is in fact hiding one's aura, blurring inside as cultivation returns to inception and purest chaotic form, all while the power grows. At the same time, the heart and mind attain peace, impulses drop and help one's character. Every time something bothers or triggers me, I cultivate. I've been doing this for the past 2 years. Zhuo Fan's eyes looked peaceful, but there was a sadness deep in there that nothing could cover. He had been cultivating Elder Yuan's cultivation method for these 2 years, to calm his mind. All that sorrow and longing had been quelled for so long. Shengguan Qingyan noticed something and asked, You mean because your wife these years? That's enough of that. Zhuo Fan shouted, cutting her off. Where's your Shengguan clan meeting? I'll take you there. Shengguan Qingyan jerked and then saw the calm look he still had. She dropped the subject and led the way. Glancing at her, Zhuo Fan's eyes flashed as he followed. 1 man and 1 woman flew, one in front and one behind, eastbound. As the sun rose again in front, 2 days passed. They had not spoken a single word all this time. Zhuo Fan sported the same dry look while Shangguan Qingyan was anxious all the time, stealing glances. She wanted to ask more or better yet know him more. But that distant expression of his quelled any such curiosity. Another day stuck like that. Shangguan Qingyan descended next to a lake. Zhuo Fan floated down next to her and scanned the surroundings. Is this where the Shangguan clan is retreating? Quite hidden. How did you know? I didn't tell you. Shangguan Qingyan gasped. Zhuo Fan shook his head. Did you forget I dabble in arrays? The barrier around the lake is invisible to the average eye, but it can't hide from mine. If it wouldn't be bad manners barging in, I would have popped it already. She batted her big purty eyes, once again stunned. Even as Zhuo Fan gave her a funny look, she still didn't react, just staring at him like a statue. Is there anything else you can do that I don't know about? Aplenty, but why should I tell you? Just ring the doorbell already? Zhuo Fan sighed and shook his head. He flicked her head, jerking it and making her pout in pain. She wasn't really angry, just blushing. With a bright smile, she made a sign to open the barrier but didn't finish as someone shouted, "Who's there?" Two youths in white pooped in front in high alert. "It's me, can't you see it?" Sticking out her chin, Shangguan Qingyan declared. The two paused, then exploded, "Young miss, you're back. Clan head has been so worried about you." Shangguan Qingyan nodded with a smile. "Hold up. Gu Yifan, you dare show your face here?" The two finally noticed Zhuo Fan and their bloodlust exploded, backed by their soul harmony stage cultivation. Shangguan Qingyan panicked and wanted to stop them. "What are you doing?" "Young miss, clan head and the venerables told us Gu Yifan was a spy. All our losses are due to him. Now we'll have our revenge for our kin." The two spat, advising Shangguan Qingyan, "Young miss, step aside. Don't let his pretty words fool you. He has got to die." The two savage looks had her tense. She stood before them still, defending Zhuo Fan. "As long as I'm here, no one will harm a hair on Mr. Gu's body." "Young miss." The two regarded Shangguan Qingyan's determination and sighed in defeat and pain. Shangguan Qingyan looked behind her and whispered, "Leave quickly before Dad comes out. Now, while I can still protect you. Once everyone is here, I won't be able to do anything." "No one asked you to. I came just to see your dad. Now move along and lead me to him," Zhuo Fan stated. Shangguan Qingyan glared hard at him. "Is this the time to show your brave side? You had so many of our clan killed. My dad is the head and won't just let you go. Are you that intent on dying?" All the more reason the young miss of the Shangguan clan should call out her daddy, to punish this criminal and get retribution. "Well, what are you standing around for?" "Why you?" Shangguan Qingyan was stunned and then she cursed, "Can't you see I'm helping you? Why do you insist on walking to your death? If you die, what will I tell young Sanzi?" Zhuo Fan's tone was cold. "None of your concern. I came here for your dad. If you won't lead me, then I'll just barge in by myself." Zhuo Fan was getting ready to make good on his words. Shangguan Qingyan hastily stopped him while grumbling, "Barging in will only make it worse." "Fine then, have it your way. I'll go tell him you're here. Maybe I can." Shangguan Qingyan shook her head, feeling that her request would most likely land on deaf ears. But since no persuasion worked on Zhuo Fan, she had no choice but brace for the worst. Shangguan Qingyan made her sign and the tranquil lake water rippled. A black hole formed as the entrance of a deep cave was presented to them. "You two be nice. You're not to do anything until I return. Is that clear?" Shangguan Qingyan was about to go and then she warned the two guards to not make a mess of things. The two looked at each other and bowed most respectfully, "As young miss commands. We understand." "You better." Shangguan Qingyan nodded and her dress flicked as she entered. She gazed back in worry even as she did. "Mr. Gu, you can still walk away." Zhuo Fan rolled his eyes. Shangguan Qingyan sighed and went deeper. The cave echoed with her ever-distant steps until they vanished. The guards were listening to every noise to make sure she was gone. Then they sported nasty grins. Their bloodlust was directed at Zhuo Fan, ready to pounce. Zhuo Fan gave an insufferable smirk. "Young miss is back." Shangguan Qingyan didn't go too far and a patrol announced her return with joy. The clan head rushed over at once, unable to contain his happiness to find his daughter was alive. He hugged her tight. "Yenner, you're here at last. Are you hurt?" "I'm fine, Dad, thanks for asking." Shangguan Qingyan was happy too. Then Shangguan Feixiong asked in a rush, "Yenner, how come you only got back now? Did he do anything to you?" No, Mr. Gu has been nice ever since he saved me. He even escorted. What, he brought you here? She just wanted to put Zhuo Fan in a good light, but Shengguan Feixiong was stunned. Where is he now? Chapter 923, Renegotiations. Chapter 923, Renegotiations. Proofreader, Papatonks. What? Shengguan Qingyan's heart sank, stuck on what would be a good response. She wanted to start off by making Zhuo Fan sound good and get her clan to change their impression of him. This way the request wouldn't sound so harsh. Now her dad wouldn't even let her speak her intention. The two might even come to blows. It was like bringing fire to gunpowder. What do I do? Shengguan Feixiong noticed her hesitation. You don't know? After escorting you, did he leave or not? Father, please calm down first. You have to only just talk with him. He could have his own share of problems. Shengguan Qingyan didn't reply, trying to mediate in Zhuo Fan's stead. Shengguan Feixiong got the gist of it, so he's outside? With who? We met 2 clansmen and are watching. Damn it. Shengguan Feixiong clenched his fists and rushed out. The other elders and experts, venerables included, went with. Whenever kids clash, it always leads to a fight. Gu Yifan must be. Shengguan Feixiong frowned and Shengguan Qingyan was happy at his reaction. Father, are you worried about Mr. Gu? Great, so you don't hate him. But don't worry, I already warned them. They won't do anything to Mr. Gu and wait for you to come. Worried about him? Shengguan Feixiong snapped, annoyed. The last few days we spent interrogating that bastard Yulin. Now we know that Gu Yifan destroyed him in one strike. There's no way the 2 guards can even harm him. Once they fight, they'll only get killed. The Shengguan clan will never allow anyone to trample over us. Shengguan Qingyan jerked and stuck her tongue. I told you that I warned them. Mr. Gu came to see you as well, so he won't make a scene. Warn? Do you actually think some hot-headed youth will just listen just because some wench told him to? Shengguan Feixiong sighed. Boldness is good for youths, but too much leads to recklessness and unforgiving mistakes. Second elder, are those 2 yours? No matter what happens, you have to stay calm. We'll handle it after we know his reason for being here. The elder in question nodded at once. Clan head, I've been cultivating for so long now, my mind is like a rock. You still don't know me? Ha, it's because I know you too well that I'm warning you. You never once smoothened your nasty temper all these years. Shengguan Feixiong shook his head. The Shengguan clan's big men made their grandiose entrance or exit outside. They all looked tense, like they were meeting another big faction. Shengguan Qingyan clicked her tongue. What's up with them? Father's more than enough to see Mr. Gu. What's the need of coming out in full force? Her tiny mind was still telling her that Zhuo Fan was her peer, waiting for his punishment like any disciple in the wrong. He was no different from Shengguan Yulin, who was also a traitor. Shengguan Feixiong's thinking was different. For the job he planned on Flying Cloud Manor, the Shengguan clan saw Shengguan Yulin as a spy, but not Zhuo Fan. Zhuo Fan ended up being the master in the shadows. He was the third party in the clash between the manor and the Shengguan clan. Not to mention he made a fool out of the greatest sage in the empire, Bailey Jingwei. There was nothing reasonable about judging Zhuo Fan. Not when he exceeded the limits within which any normal youth should operate. He was a faction leader in his own right. Their coming in force at Zhuo Fan was not in any way to label him a traitor, but to negotiate from one leader to another. It sounded ridiculous to anyone's ears. Hundreds of your Genesis stage experts are coming out to see a Soul Harmony stage kid at best? And for what, negotiations? That there was the problem. He wasn't just of Soul Harmony stage strength, but a calculative man of Bailey Jingwei's level. Wasn't Prime Minister Bailey worthy of their talks? It only gave Zhuo Fan more value. One other aspect was worth mentioning. The soaring sword was with him, and that left them with even fewer choices. They refused to believe a youth shrewd enough to clash with Bailey Jingwei would let his hormones do the talking and hand it over just because hundreds of experts were giving him mean looks. As such, negotiations. Shengguan Feixiong's group opened the barrier and came out in power. But then his face twitched. The worst-case scenario he pictured came true. Zhuo Fan was just casually standing next to a bush. The problem started when one looked down at the blood under his feet. The 2 young Shengguan clan guards were battered and bleeding on the ground, giving an on and off groan to signal they were still in this world. One was sure that even they were baffled how a radiant stage youth would just wreck them like nothing. Their eyes were filled with sorrow and pain, but no amount would change reality. The info came too late. We didn't get to notify the clan of his strength. Damn it, just where did this pair of monstrous son and father come from? One's freakier than the next. The elders sighed. The elder declaring his rock-steady nerves to Shangguan Feixiong was now boiling at the humiliation his disciples were given. His mighty aura of a Genesis stage expert was on full display. Zhuofan spared the man no glance, laughing and being friendly. Uncle, these 3 days felt like years. Did you miss me? Haha. Cut the bullshit. I saw exactly what you were 3 days ago. Stop with the damn acting, Gu Yifan. Shangguan Feixiong's face tensed and snapped. Why are you here? What's your angle? Zhuofan paused in his step, revealing a bright smile. Shangguan Qingyan interjected, in hopes of easing the tension. Father, Mr. Gu cared about my safety and walked me back. Nah, I asked her to lead me here to chat with Shangguan clan head. Zhuofan didn't let her sugarcoat it and cut her good intentions short. With his words, his tone grew colder as well. Shangguan clan head, I have an offer for you. Interested? Shangguan Feixiong stared at the cold and savage face. Speak. Then I'll be blunt. Zhuofan began, for the sake of your precious daughter, my son was captured by Shangguan Feiyun. As the Shangguan clan is a clan devoted to righteousness, wouldn't it be natural for you to return the favor and help me save my son? Shangguan Qingyan shook. Mr. Gu is risking so much for his son. He came to see Dad for this. Yeah, for me, young Sanzi. This doesn't concern you. Leave. Shangguan Feixiong cut her off, staring hard at Zhuofan. Haha, save my daughter? You two used her as bait to control my clan. We've danced to your tune for the better half of a month and cost the lives of so many of my people. If I could, I would give up my daughter in exchange for their lives. Now you want us to take such a high risk for saving my daughter? Whatever for. Shangguan Qingyan shook, gasping at her father's words. Her heart was in pain, hanging her head and shedding tears in distress. Father cares more about others than me. This was her father, devoted to good. If I could give my life for them, then I would. Shangguan Qingyan's heart was crushed, but understood that this came for what her clan believed in. Shangguan Feixiong paid her no heed, still glaring in anger at Zhuofan. The elders declared, we will follow our righteous clan head to death. Righteous? Zhuofan quirked an eyebrow as he searched Shangguan Feixiong's eyes. He wasn't buying it. Throwing away your flesh and blood for mere sympathy points? Hypocrite. Nothing more than a trick of negotiation. Did you really think I'd fall for that gimmick? Humph. Chapter 924, Successful Cooperation. Chapter 924, Successful Cooperation. Proofreader, Papatonks. Zhuofan's eyes shone with disdain, his face skewed in the most condescending way possible. Shangguan clan head, that's quite a fact twisting. It's no different than saying that I and my son ended up causing your heavy casualties. Even with saving your precious daughter, it pales to the hundreds of lost lives. But ask yourself this, was your clan's losses the result of my design? Shangguan Feixiong shook, winced and became solemn. Humph, your clan fell for the scheme, 1 because of Bailey Jingwei's deliberate and devious ploy and 2 because of you, Shangguan Feixiong, due to your narrow-minded view and your shaky decisions. Take me out of the picture and the Shangguan clan would have suffered all the same. You'd still have your traitor. You'd still be jumping at the chance to send Shangguan Yulin to the Pill King convention Bailey Jingwei set up just for you. That punk would still turn on his clan. And of course your clan would still suffer and die in Bailey Jingwei's trap. You can't blame this one me, not when I had no hand in it. Zall you Shangguan Feixiong. It's what the incompetent and greedy Shangguan clan had brought to fruition. I was only there for the ride, a mere passenger. Your disaster has not a thing to do with me. Zhuofan shouted, filled with mockery and disdain, quite the contrary if you think about it. It's my very existence that stirred things at the falls and caused Bailey Jingwei to panic into breaking your trap and allowing you stragglers to be standing here. You might even say that I'm not just your daughter's savior but everyone's. You're spitting on another's favor and going as far as poisoning the well by throwing all your incompetence on me. Talk about being ungrateful. Is this how the righteous #1 clan in Eastern lands operates? I spit on you hypocrites. Zhuofan's roars rang into their ears, cutting them deep. Some were so overcome with realization that they hung their heads in shame. He didn't care about us, but he only used both of the parties' fight for his benefit. He has not endangered Shangguan clan at all. As he said, Is there no one who wouldn't play the third party and kill the remains of the first two? How can we just blame our shortcomings on an outsider? This isn't how the best clan in Eastern lands takes responsibility. He did offer us a fake map, but even if it was real, Bailey Jingwei would still have trapped us. When all was said and done, their fight with Flying Cloud Manor was only on them. Like he said, if not for his involvement, we'd remain mere fish in a barrel, awaiting our demise. We have no right to blame him. He really is the Shangguan clan's savior. The elders behind Shangguan Feixiong were chattering, forcing him to shake his head. The imposing stance he had was now crushed. They were Genesis stage experts and would not pick on the weak, especially with their righteous reputation. They always had to find the moral high ground for their every action. This was why excuses were everything. Even if one was up to no good, they had to find a good explanation first. This righteousness was like a chain holding his clan's experts back. Their original plan was to come out in force and flex a bit in hope they'd scare Zhuofan enough to fork out the sword as to gain absolution. Now that he tore their groundless excuses to shreds, they had no right to demand it. They were not vile or hypocrites to such a degree. If they could use the proper means to get their wish good, they would never stoop so low as to stain their beliefs. They didn't have the nerve to. Seeing them stuck, Zhuofan stared at their conflicted looks. Shangguan Feixiong was looking gloomier than ever, not knowing what to do as the whispers behind him continued. The Shangguan clan's position had been crushed from the start. Shangguan Feixiong pondered and this time regarded Zhuo with seriousness. Gu Yifan, you may be right. This loss was on us and not you. But to have us rescue your son, I'm afraid that's not possible. We've suffered heavy losses and can't even fight the Flying Cloud Manor. As a clan head, I cannot unjustifiably risk my people's lives. You may be our savior, but I'll still have to refuse. Faker. Zhuofan mocked him. Shangguan clan head, a true man doesn't talk behind another's back. You've come to the central area with so many people yet had not once considered the risk, how many you would lose. Humph. Shangguan Feixiong regarded him in silence. Zhuofan scoffed, death is either heavy or worthless. Every life has its value. Hasn't that value been long established for all of you? Soaring sword. Shangguan Feixiong's eyes shone. With an evil smirk, Zhuofan nodded. Right? Shangguan clan head, let's be honest for once. You all came to the central area for the soaring sword, but now it lies with me. In other words, I can use it to buy your lives for my purpose, right? Of course not. Even with so many of us here, we still have our principles. With excessive losses. All right, my bad. I wasn't talking about all of you, just a few experts. I mean, there's no point in using some weak fools like these two here. They'd just die anyway, haha. Zhuofan cut Shangguan Feixiong's off, dispelling his misgivings while driving his point by kicking the beaten and helpless guys on the ground. Shangguan Feixiong approved. That's reassuring. This was his limit. The pain of just letting these youths die in the central area instead of going back home was too much for him to accept. These kids were the future of the Shangguan clan. Their deaths meant the crippling of Shangguan clan's power and a bleak fate. Regardless of times, the greatest power of a clan or a sect would always be its heritage. With just some awesome experts at the helm, one just had to wipe them all out and your faction would crumble by itself. While this intermediate part would in a couple of decades turn into heroes. The clan would flourish and it would be glorified. As for the experts, they could enter the enemy camp no problem. So long as they weren't trapped like before, escaping couldn't be easier. When Zhuofan offered the soaring sword to some experts, he instantly weighed the pros and cons, agreeing to the deal. Though some skepticism remained, Gu Yifan, I can lend them to you, but how are you going to handle Flying Cloud Manor's overwhelming force? Do you have any guarantees? Who do you take me for, you? Humph. Zhuofan scorned, lighten up, I'm not going brain dead like you and won't incur heavy losses. The chances are not one of them might even die while you'd be getting a bargain with the soaring sword, Shangguan clan head, haha. Shangguan Feixiong shook. The biting words entered his ears yet didn't get a rise. All he did was stare at his confident eyes before nodding. We've seen just how shrewd he is. I just hope it's the case. Since he's only asking for some experts, they could react to anything. Not how he was always passive and ended up with sacrifices. Shangguan Feixiong frowned. Agreeing was one thing and his restless mind was another. Though unlike him, Second Elder's rage could not be quenched. Humph, so now we're supposed to listen to some brat. Yep, got a problem? Damn right. Shangguan clan's elders follow the clan head, not some rotten punk. Second elder's fury peaked as he regarded the disciples at Zhuofan's feet. Moreover, we're not about to just turn a blind eye to you harming our disciples without a reason. Zhuofan sported a crafty smile, egging him on. Senior, you're welcome to step forward and I'll be more than happy to justify myself for these two juniors' predicament. Humph, you had your chance to apologize. Second elder huffed and stomped before Zhuofan, shouting, these two are my disciples. Harming them means... Pah. The crisp and snappy sound of the slap rang in everyone's ears. Second elder's thin cheek now sported a very conspicuous mark. Zhuofan waved his hand around. What are you waiting for a face slap? SSS. Everyone else gasped in stupefaction. Second elder was a Genesis stage expert that warranted clan heads' respect when being addressed. Now though, a mere radiant stage brat slapped him, shaming and humiliating him in the worst possible way. Chapter 925. Love between father and daughter. Chapter 925. Love between father and daughter. Proofreader, Papatonks. Guyifun, you're finished. The old man's going to kill you. They all watched, sighing helplessly and stunned. This kid had such a gall on him that he'd go and just slap a Genesis stage expert's face literally. Second elder had his mind black for a second there. But the feel of his scorching sting on that cheek made his face twist in fury as he howled. He unleashed all his power filled with bloodlust, thinking only about killing Zhuofan as he went to smash his brains out. You goddamn punk, now you've done it. Why not? The question is, what are you going to do about it, hit me back? Zhuofan jabbed. Did your atrophied mind already forget about the soaring sword? Kill me and you can say goodbye to it. You'll be the shame of the clan. The sudden palm attack stopped just as fast as it started, though it kept shaking for some reason. Second elder glared at Zhuofan with bloodshot eyes, but his only option was to grind his teeth, stop with his attack midway and come to terms to reality. Zhuofan's words cut right where it hurt the most. They came all the way here to the central area just for that particular sword. If, say, they failed because of his lousy temper in offing the kid, he'd end up destroying all his clan's sacrifices and hard work so far. Second elder's every fiber screamed to just let go and do it, but he reined in all the fury thinking about who he was doing it for. But the rage was bouncing around in his skull with nowhere to go and affecting his mood. Rotten punk, just you wait. If it weren't for the clan. Pah. Zhuofan gave a quick response in the form of another quite resounding slap on the other cheek, just to match. Why wait? Geezer, enough of playing your seniority card. I already said that I'm using the soaring sword for your lives. Haven't you come after this thing anyway? Forget about those meager slaps. Even killing these two at my feet still won't give you any worth to haggle with me. You. Second elder's heart jerked, pointing at him, but his mind was so overwhelmed cursing came hard. The brat was too obnoxious and insufferable in his gloating. It was even worse knowing he could get away with it too, mocking the other as much as he wanted since the victim had to just sit there and take it. So he huffed and puffed for a while now, but that was it. Everyone else was dumbfounded. Their second elder, who was always like a powder keg, just got manhandled by a kid. The same kid had the soaring sword, granted, but the other was a veteran who fought in hundreds of battles. Was it that easy to just deflate him? The three venerables nodded with hard faces. What a shrewd tactic. It's only more obvious he's capable of it since he beat Bailey Jingwei. Ignoring second elder popping a vein there, Zhuofan walked over to the cave like the others weren't even there. I'm going in to pick the men and I'll be gone. The other looked from him to the still fuming second elder with dumb looks. Shangguan Qingyan was stunned by this new side of Zhuofan. That he'd have the nerve to mess with a Genesis stage expert. It only worked to make her heart race faster. A demon archon. A whisper traveled, completing her thought. Savage as a demon and dominating like a king. There was no other explanation. She turned to see who it was that said it and found it to be her own father. Only to find his face solemn. Feeling her gaze, Shangguan Feixiong told the elders, go and watch the kid. Read his pattern but don't incite him. He is shrewd and brave, with a subtle mind and having the one thing we want the most. What's worse, he doesn't fear us at all. Alright Feixiong, we will. At the very least, we won't get slapped out of nowhere by a kid, ha ha ha. Glaring at second elder, the venerable mocked. Then he turned serious and led the men into the cave after Zhuofan. For all intents and purposes, the kid was just that, a junior, but his twisted mind and subtleties left these men of power seeing him as nothing less than a fearsome character, their equal. As for second elder, he got coaxed by other elders to come along, recalling at the last minute there were 2 disciples Zhuofan thrashed and picked them up to heal them. The place was soon left to Shangguan Feixiong and his daughter. He called to her as she was leaving, "Hold on, Yen'er." "What is it, father?" Shangguan Qingyan asked. Shangguan Feixiong paused in hesitation, but spoke honestly, "Yen'er, now that we're alone, I want to apologize." "Apologize?" "Yeah." Shangguan Feixiong sighed. "Yen'er, your mom passed away early and I have remarried many times to cultivate our art, but you're the only daughter I ever had, and no one can replace you in my heart. I have said those words, of exchanging your life with others, but it was only part of the plan, not actually feasible. What parent on this heaven's green earth would have the heart to give his child away? Even for 10 or 100 no one will." Shangguan Qingyan shook and her eyes shone with hope. Shangguan Feixiong sighed. "I only said it to chip away at Gu Yifun's stance in the negotiations and take the initiative. I could not let him, just because he saved my daughter, offer everything on a silver platter, even paying with our people's lives. Saying some falsehoods is natural in negotiations. Maybe you think I'm a hypocrite instead of open and direct, ruining Shangguan clan head's righteous name, but this is the world we live in, Yen'er. If my words hurt you, then I want to apologize. A father can always see his daughter's tears no matter where you are." "Father." Shangguan Qingyan was overjoyed as she went to hug him, tears gushing. "I knew that father cared about me the most. No matter how stubborn I was or how I always annoyed the aunties, father won't ever change. I knew father loved me the most. Father may not be the most righteous man, but you're the best father a daughter could have." Shangguan Feixiong smiled and nodded. "I'm glad you understand. I thought you'll no longer respect me after seeing me lying. Now haha that it's out in the open I feel so much better. Father, you said it was only a trick to switch the negotiations in your favor. Did it work?" Shangguan Qingyan looked at him in curiosity. Shangguan Feixiong's face twitched and he sighed. The kid's too cunning and I wasn't able to get any advantage, crushing me at every step. Did you not see his outrageous arrogance? He even dared mock me. He now holds all the cards in this deal while I'm the loser. I just want to get him to finish his goal and get the sword from him. With his cocky attitude, if he stays for too long, something's bound to happen. He really is the devil." "Oh." Shangguan Qingyan nodded with a bright smile. Shangguan Feixiong noticed the sparks in her eyes and sighed. "She's all grown up and a man is going to take her from me. The day is fast approaching. But he's just too dangerous." Shangguan Feixiong took a deep breath, feeling for the first time that even as the clan head, he could not assure her happiness. For the man she had her eyes on was uncontrollable. Zhuofan walked around the cave like he owned the place, with the elders and venerables in tow. It was as if an emperor went out on a stroll with his guards. The other clansmen there were struck dumb, especially the juniors. "Isn't that Gu Yifun, the traitor? Why does it look like the elders are catering to him like a clan head in this secret base?" They all wore goony looks as Zhuofan passed them. Chapter 926, Expendable. Chapter 926, Expendable. Proofreader, Papatonks. "Say kid, just what are you looking for in the cave?" Having looked over most of the cave yet not particularly interested in anything there, or maybe they were beneath him, one man got curious since he also didn't start choosing his party. Zhuofan's eyes shone and looked at the puzzled people, looking for someone, a messenger. "Messenger?" "Precisely." Zhuofan grinned. "I need a runner, someone to send a letter to Flying Cloud Manor to set a place for a hostage exchange." The clansmen were curious. Exchange hostages. "Sure, the soaring sword for my son Humph," Zhuofan scoffed. Shangguan clan elders were stumped but also annoyed. For crying out loud, wasn't that sword supposed to be for us? How'd you use it in an exchange? Zhuofan easily read their faces and smiled. "It's obviously a ruse. If it were that easy to get my son in an exchange with Bailey Jingwei, I'd have done it already. Why would I waste time coming here of all places? Since I can't put stock in Bailey Jingwei to follow through with the switch, I'll be needing you guys' help. Though if you feel disinclined to lend a hand or two, I'll just have to go out on a limb. It's all the same to me, really." No, we're glad to help, glad." The elders rushed to reassure him, feeling sweat trickling down their necks. "For God's sake, if this punk makes the switch, that'll make all the losses we incurred all for nothing." They could trade with the kid to get the sword, but once it landed in Bailey Jingwei's hands, all hope was lost. So Zhuo Fan had them on a leash, dangling the sword in front of their eyes to do his bidding and making them readjust their attitudes. They were scared that any mood change would push the kid into skipping them for their enemy. One man's pain is another man's joy. This led to the elders treating Zhuo Fan like their ancestor, hanging on every word and following it without question, while the onlooking disciples were looking baffled all this time. Do our elders have no dignity? What are they doing hanging around some brat? What about the honor of the Shangguan clan? Why, not me? Every disciple there looked at Zhuo Fan with envy. Not even the successors of the clan were given such respect, and they were the future. Ignoring the blatant dagger stares on his person, Zhuo Fan took a round trip around the place, only to end it with a frown and a sigh. Isn't there any soul harmony stage disciple around? Boy, such disciples are rare, barely a few of them around. Of the ones we brought, leaving Shangguan Yulin, the only ones left are the two you beat up. One venerable rushed to answer but then was puzzled. Does it have to be a soul harmony stage disciple? What does cultivation have to do with sending a message? Zhuo Fan shook his head. If only it were that simple. This job comes with a high risk of dying. What? Everyone gasped. Ignoring their squeaks, Zhuo Fan chided, what's with the whining? What's the big deal about using one life? Didn't you already use so many back in Flying Cloud Manor for the soaring sword? I'm only asking for one, so that's a win for you. I need a soul harmony stage cultivator because his self-destruction has to be at that level at the least. An ethereal stage one would hardly have any effect in deafening Shangguan Feiyun. I want a disciple out of consideration for you elders. Since you're all mighty important to the clan, I can't just as well ask you to die. Then again, since there's no disciple around. Zhuo Fan's eyes scanned the oldies with a creepy smile. They shuddered and jumped in fright. Why the hell would we go back to Flying Cloud Manor just to blow up? Would they fear Shangguan Feiyun, a sword king, if blowing up had worked? No, it was precisely because it couldn't even scratch him that they didn't feel like blowing themselves up for nothing. Now that Zhuo Fan asked them this, they were put on the spot. Zhuo Fan was totally right, so many died to get the soaring sword and now only one more was needed. But sometimes, a clan had to ignore the pragmatic solution in favor of the ethical one. So many died in their raid of the manor for soaring sword, but that was in the name of the clan. Because of their deaths, the survivors cared even more about the clan. That was called being united. While being ready to sacrifice one member to get to their goal, that was the same as throwing away all ethics, morals and the clansman's devotion all these years. The collapse of the clan would only be a matter of time. Standing united was the clan's foundation. Zhuo Fan was no Shangguan clansman and would simply write this off, but the elders could not just destroy the clan's morale because of a bit of danger. They'd rather take the worst outcome, with them dying in hundreds for their goal, instead of killing off one of them for it. This was never about gain and loss, it was about spirit. With their morale crushed, there was no team. The elders looked at each other, but they all shook their heads. Zhuo Fan's eyes shook. They're not the fools I took them for, at least. They know when to put their foot down. But I need a man for my dastardly plan. Since Shangguan clan is out, what now? Zhuo Fan sunk into deep thought. Ah. A cry echoed throughout the cave, like a squealing pig. It was oddly familiar to Zhuo Fan, who's whining like that. Humph, who else but Shangguan Yulin, the traitor? One venerable spat in disgust. Zhuo Fan lit up and a broad smile crept on his face. People, is this condemned traitor still considered one of you? Could you lend him to me? Though I don't plan on returning him. Well? They looked at each other and then sported smirks. A venerable laughed. Sure, please do. We were still uncertain if we should go for death penalty or torture him first for his heavy crimes. Since Mr. Gu wants him, I believe using his life for the divine sword is enough to absolve him. That'd be so great, what do you guys think, haha? The others laughed along with knowing looks. Alas, the poor Shangguan Yulin had once again hit rock bottom, in the hands of the devilish Zhuo Fan. Now that's fate or maybe a nightmare Zhuo Fan snickered along with the other elders, the sound bouncing off the walls and making it even creepier. A sudden chill crawled down everyone's spine, feeling like demons were cackling in their ears. Ack. In a closed room, Shangguan Yulin was having the torture of his life. He was deformed in the process, hung to a stone pole and sealed of his cultivation. An elder with black beard clamped his shoulder and sent Yuan Qi inside him without qualms. so that his bones would creak and his tendons would snap in the most gruesome way possible, hence the agonizing cries. The elder demanded, "What else did you tell Shangguan Feiyun? Does he know about this place?" Sixth elder, have mercy. Sobbing from all the pain, Shangguan Yulin wailed, "Sirs asked me 1,000 times already. I already told you Shangguan Feiyun only wanted to kill the experts, not to eliminate you completely. He doesn't know of this place. He still wanted me to get back to Eastern lands as a spy. He didn't even ask about our meeting place. Please have mercy." Sixth elder huffed and ramped up the pain. "So you want to go back as a spy, is it? No matter how many times I hear it, it still fills me with absolute rage, making me wish I could skin you alive." "Screw you. You don't care, but I am being asked the same thing over and Dashak. Mercy, I was wrong, sixth elder. Spare me. I want to see my uncle. Uncle, save me." Shangguan Yulin once again howled in pain and tears. The heavy stone door opened with a creak in his most desperate need, and a familiar and most unwelcome laughter reached him. "Ha, easy with the cries, your uncle can't save you now. But your master might have something that does." Startled, the two inside looked to see Zhuo Fan walk in with a wide smile, his ridiculing words mocking Shangguan Yulin's wretched situation. Chapter 927, Show Pony. Chapter 927, Show Pony. Proofreader, Papatonks. Jigu Yifun. Shangguan Yulin's pulse quickened, his eyes widened, his face bore shock. What is going on here? What's this traitor doing here? And, more importantly, what got him so confident to come here? Since every Shangguan clansman saw him as a traitor, it made not 1 ounce of sense for him to just waltz in here. Questions upon questions filled Shangguan Yulin's mind, yet there was no answer to lift the confusion, no sign to clear his doubts. Soon though, none of it even mattered, not when the hatred of revenge took over his faculties and was reduced to just crunching his teeth in rage. It was all this guy's fault that he, Shangguan Yulin, had his bright future as a double agent ruined. It all went down the drain the minute Gu Yifun popped into the picture. He betrayed the Shangguan clan and was now under their strict and creative torture, while also losing his value to Shangguan Feiyun. He was now so revolting, none saw him as a human being anymore. Everyone despised him, everyone hated him. What was worse, he now had no future, all because of this demon Gu Yifun. Shangguan Yulin's fury only grew as all his failures came to mind. Looking at the insufferable smug face and that demeaning smile, he'd want for nothing more than to tear him apart piece by bloody piece. The thing that took the last straw was that the punk faked being some big-shot demonic cultivator to toy with him and even had to knock his head on the floor for that. It was a humiliation this young master could never ever accept. What emperor would prostrate to a filthy flea-ridden beggar? Anyone would be better than this freak. Everyone had their limits, whether aware of it or not. Shangguan Yulin's was Zhuo Fan. Anyone can be better than me, but not this bastard. I'm superior to you in every way. This was none other than Shangguan Yulin's pride talking. It stemmed from his deep disdain of Zhuo Fan from the very start. He just couldn't let go of it. Or maybe his obsession with Shangguan Qingyan, who ended up getting close to Zhuo Fan, that he couldn't overcome. In any case, while the entire event was made clear to any casual observer, he was still stuck in the past, blinded with his head stuck in the sand. The same guy he viewed as inferior, as a mere smudge towards his glorious future, ended up being an expert in deep disguise. He would never accept it and would do anything to justify this fact to himself, to the point of being incapable of thinking basic questions as to why Zhuo Fan could just strut in here. All that came out was vitriol and bloodlust. Sixth elder, he is the reason why we lost so many people in the Flying Cloud Manor. He gave us a fake map. Sir has to grab him and avenge them all. Sixth elder gave Zhuo Fan an icy look. He hardly talked with Zhuo Fan in the Gu household and knew how things transpired, thus labeling him as a double agent as well. Since he was too busy carving into Shangguan Yulin in here, he was not part of Zhuo Fan's enlightening and inexorable speech held outside. In short, he was oblivious of Zhuo Fan and the Shangguan clan's deal. He was now thinking of nothing else but catching this traitor and giving him a re-education he wouldn't forget. Sixth elder hated his kind the most. He shot for Zhuo Fan, bearing his bloodthirsty palm on Zhuo Fan to grab him. Late Genesis stage power slammed into Zhuo Fan and pinned him on the spot. Yet it didn't seem to affect him, as if he chose to stay put, if that smile was anything to go by. Shangguan Yulin snickered, relishing his mortal enemy's plight. No matter how Sixth Elder was raging and his attack seemed deadly, It was only meant to seize and not kill. That's how you deal with spies. You capture them for interrogation, not kill them. Though that wasn't to say the process was pain-free. The grip on Zhuo Fan's shoulder would be so tight, all the bones would snap like twigs. Then there's the pain, hee. Followed by a world of hurt, as each day something new is done to you to relish newfound agony, hee. Shangguan Yulin was actually looking forward to what came, snickering to himself as he pictured Zhuo Fan hanging from a rack with hooks in him. I'm the young master of Shangguan clan. A traitor will be deformed, twisted, tormented under all the pain he's inflicted upon. To an outsider like you, that goes double. Let's see how long you last under Sixth Elder's deft hands. Haha, I bet you'll be far more miserable than me, but at least you'll put me at ease, hi. Shangguan Yulin cackled in his mind, rapture clearly painted on his face, his eyes obsessed with turning those twisted thoughts into reality that he was already picturing Zhuo Fan bleeding, even as the attack had yet to land. He perked his ears, ready to relish Zhuo Fan's shoulder crumble like glass, the symphony soothing his disturbed mind. I've waited days for this. There's no better joy out there. Sixth stop. An aged hand came out of the darkness and grabbed Sixth Elder's cruel hand before it even reached its target. Sixth Elder started and found one of Shangguan clan's 3 venerables next to him and the many other elders coming in. Sixth Elder shook. Mr. Gu is a guest and needs to be treated with respect. The venerable gave him a look and pulled Sixth Elder to the side to whisper in his ear. Sixth Elder jerked, bobbed his head and returned to Zhuo Fan with new eyes. I ask Mr. Gu's forgiveness for my earlier ignorant transgression. Dong. While the cave was awfully peaceful, the same didn't apply to Shangguan Yulin's mind, feeling like bombs went off constantly. Gone from his elated state of hoping to see Zhuo Fan suffer, Shangguan Yulin's mind was broken. What the hell? Why are the elders treating him like some prized pony? They weren't like this even around Uncle. There's no fault in ignorance. I may not be much, but at least I'm kind, haha. Zhuo Fan never registered Shangguan Yulin's shocked eyes, closing in with his chest held high, putting on some mighty airs while taking a look around. What base chambers? There's not even a chair around. Since Mr. Gu says it must, then it has to have one. One elder shouted, Guard, get Mr. Gu a laurel chair. What do you mean we don't have one? Get clan heads from the meeting hall if you have to. Yes, sir. A reply came from outside and in no time flat, a disciple brought the chair behind Zhuo Fan for him to rest his laurels. But not before the thoughtful disciple gave it a good cleaning with his sleeve. Mr. Gu, please, Since there isn't. Why bother? I'm not one to nitpick, haha. With a smug grin, Zhuo Fan faked modesty as he made himself most comfortable in the prized chair. But this wasn't the end of it, not by far. Zhuo Fan gave a disapproving look around like something was missing and coughed. Catching his drift, one elder shouted, Get a table and tea. Damn fools, are you blind? How could you forget about the rest when you brought the chair? Yes, elder. 2 disciples were quick to arrive, gently placing a table next to Zhuo Fan. The other carefully placed the tea for their prized guest. Grinning from ear to ear, Zhuo Fan leaned into the chair, the clan head's chair, like a boss. He then made a show of picking his cup and sipping once with one of the most exaggerated expressions of joy ever. This is the life. Shangguan Yulin, dangling from his pole, twitched, his broken heart now in pieces. His greatest hope these past torturous days was to see Zhuo Fan go through the same agony. What the hell? Why is showing off? What's with the elders? Why are they serving him like their ancestor if not better? Have you no dignity, old coots? Shangguan Yulin howled in his mind, but Zhuo Fan's taunting face made him gnash his teeth in fury. Gu Yifan, did heaven place you on this earth just so you can torture me? Ugh. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.